Welcome everybody to the 50th Cash Knowledge Seekers Workshop. And we're almost through a complete year of weekly workshops on the Knowledge Seekers series. And this is kind of monumental in a way to be up to 50. And today we'll be hearing from, as usual, Mr. Kesh of the Kesh Foundation at the Spaceship Institute. Along with Marco, and I'm not sure if Armin is there, perhaps. And we'll be hearing also from Brett and from Mike. We'll have some questions on and things to show. Okay, without further ado, let's switch over to Mr. Kesh and see what he has to say for today. And then we'll get into some things that Brett has to show. Mr. Kesh, are you there?
Yes, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, as usual, wherever you are. I hope you're safe and happy. Today we don't have much to announce, but on the other hand, we have important news. If you have not been on the other channels of the Keshe Foundation teachings, with pleasure, and we are very proud to announce the establishment of the Keshe Foundation Space Institute in collaboration with the university, becoming university structure in Italy as of last Monday. This allows us to teach and operate on the accredited masters and undergraduates immediately in the coming months. And the video for this has already been made by the university team of the Keshe Foundation. Thank you very much for what you've done. And it'll be released within coming days. We have become officially part of the teaching structure at the university, and we accept a large number, and the teachings will be in a mass worldwide. All the fees, all the applications, all will be released in the coming days, hopefully within the next 24 hours. And we are able to teach from every aspect of the technology directly worldwide. We have no problem in respect to level of understanding of the students who come in. We are looking for experts in the fields for the first group, and people who can add to the knowledge and in a way be able to teach the knowledge while they are students. And on the level we see that they participate in teaching, then in time, by the time when the undergraduates come into the university in October, they take the role of the teachers. There are a number of points which I have to make clear, is that by the laws and the structure of the university, we do not look for any prerequisite. You have to have a degree before, you have to have so many years of experience. These do not count. What this means is that we look for people who can bring their knowledge to the university, and they bring with them the ethos of the Keshe Foundation. What this means is that we are looking for people with a peaceful mind and a peaceful behavior in developing, promoting world peace. And as I was just explaining to Vince before we come online, one of the conditions that the new students or knowledge seekers have to agree with is that they never patent any discovery, and they never use the technology for defense or military application. We will allow people from military background, we will allow people from the space technology background, we allow people who come in from national security organizations in. We do not block. We know there is a large interest in security services around the world to have people to see how we teach, that then they can use it. We welcome you, because through this we teach you the peaceful application of the technology, and in time you will change. This is important because if we put barriers up, they try to make a hole to get in. So, good morning, how are you? So we teach you ourselves directly. Then it's the job of the organizations who send you in, or you think you find a new way that you can use it with the defense and military, then you will find a way, through the way you receive the knowledge with a peaceful ethos, you will not be able to use it. We have had approaches from military governments that they want to appoint high-ranking officers, scientists in. We welcome you. We did not disclose this up to this minute because we did not have the structure. Now as a university we have. We allow scientists of different calibers in space, in medicine, in military, in defense technology around the world to join the first wave and the second wave of the masters. This way there is no hidden agenda, there is nothing nobody should know. But we leave it to them to declare their position, who they are and what they are. The technology will be taught in two levels as we discussed with Arman and Marco. And it seems we are both, three of us, of the same opinion, with the experience we had here. We teach theory and practical at the same time. And from the beginning is Arman's idea that we separate the people who are practical, want to do the lab work, they do the lab work. And the people who want to be involved in theoretical, they are needed. And somewhere down the line, the two groups will come together, because then they can translate the work of the people who do the practical into equations or mathematical calculation. So if you have a practical background and you want to make systems and reactors, you most probably go with Arman that way, because he is in that side. If you are going into the practical and theoretical, mostly stick with me and Marco in so many ways till others join in. We do not, what we call, separate you by who is more intelligent and who's less intelligent and how it can be done. The basis is how you can participate and share knowledge. So most probably within the next day or two, you can go to the Space Institute, the Spaceship Institute .com on the Keshe Foundation website and download the applications. The people who applied for a place before from the Institute, you will be sent a link to fill in the form and send it back to us, because once we accept you, then you receive the acceptance through the university. The structure is that the Spaceship Institute decides on the knowledge seeker, and then we inform the university we accepted this, they meet the criteria we are looking for, and then they send you the application, what do you call it, the acceptance from the university. Then you can apply for visa directly through the university structure and the standard procedures. As you will see on the video, the first teachings of Master starts on Monday the 4th of May, and undergraduates will start October of 2015. We have a limited teaching facilities for the first group, which is around about 100 and 120. Then for the undergraduates, we can go up to 250 because then it'll be split in different teams and groups. The university facility allows us to grow up to 10,000 within the first 2 years. So what it means, if we see the demand, we can increase the numbers quite rapidly. It's part of the structure of the university. The online teachings will come on sometimes later on this year for the people who want to add to their knowledge, but they don't want to be as a full-timer. One of the first works of the Institute as a university will be collaboration with 2 or 3 other universities live online, which means we'll distribute and teach other scientists and other students live on a regular basis in a number of universities simultaneously. State-of-art 3-dimensional videos will be used that in the teaching, it's a live presentation. There are 2 options with us. We will decide in the coming weeks which one we're going to use. And the universities and the institutes which will work with us will receive a copy system. So the teachings will be 3-dimensional live from the lecture rooms or from the laboratories. This is what we can tell you up to now. From now on, you can go back on the Spaceship Institute's website and download the application, send it in, and then you'll be responded to. One of the most important things with this is that even if you join the Institute from the beginning as a master's or undergraduate, but you have ideas about development of the specific technologies, you will be funded to start a spin-off by the foundation. We have been promised and we know that we have access to a large amount of funds for spin-offs and development of different applications of the technology. As we see fit, we can support. So you can come in to be a master, at the same time be taught in the morning and in the afternoon work on your spin-off company within the structure of the university. This has never been done, but most of the people who join the masters are highly trained scientists and well-educated people who understand why they are changing the course of their life through a new subject. If you have ideas in medical application, if you have ideas in magnetic field, gravitational field, in seeds, we welcome you, and you have to put this on your application when you apply. That you have ideas, you want to see a spin-off as much as you are a student. This will be accepted. It's never been done. But again, the condition is that whatever you develop has to be open online, which means your spin-off is not yours. And as you learn from the Institute, we freely distribute the knowledge. One thing for those who have a fear that my knowledge will be used by somebody else and I not get the full benefit of it, is that there are 7 billion human beings on this planet. Not a single person can provide the benefit of the knowledge to all 7 billion. So now you see how and why we work this way. If your object or your aim is to serve humanity, financial gains will come through what you reach. But at the same time, others will do to support you to do better in your work. Now, a different topic. The Keshe Foundation, again through the university, has access to 5, and by the time we open the university, 7 health centers around Europe. These health center clinics will allow immediate use of the Keshe Foundation health technology at these centers, which means You can go to the centers which we release the name of and addresses of. It's all under the same name and it's the same company. You can go to the health center which is authorized to use our technology to receive any kind of medical support you might need or you might have. In time, we will add to these numbers as the setup is increased and as we develop new technologies. The same way, all the health pads, which now has become available through the Chinese manufacturers, will be available in these health centers. And at the same time, we have been given and we have accepted a 30-room hospital in Italy for assessment and development of the technology on the health side. We have a number of doctors who will be taught to start running these centers. The point is that with opening up the university, as I explained before, up to now, most of the governments and organizations had a problem dealing with the Iranian nuclear physicists as I was heading the Keshe Foundation. Now, the government institutes and organizations and companies deal with the university scientific organizations headed by itself. Therefore, this program of banning and blocking goes out of the window. So you can collaborate and bring your technology. At the same time, we already been approached by a number of governments for collaboration for development. This was one of the stumbling blocks in spreading the technology. Now this has been removed. So in the coming days after opening of the institute as a university, we have already lined up the spin-offs to come into operation even before starting the masters within the structure of the university. If you have any ideas that you want to discuss, to develop, to commercialize, we look and we have the financial backing to support it to be commercialized. Has to do with the work of the technology of the Keshe Foundation and the knowledge we spread, and not for any other purposes. We do not start any spin-off or any new companies for somebody's ideas. I see Sohail online. Sohail, you're welcome. Sohail heads and runs the whole development of the technology in China, and people who want to speak to him or have contact with him, the links will be provided in the Spaceship Institute for commercialization, or the people who want to have agencies or distribution of the materials which the foundation through China or Italy like to purchase or be agent of or to be distributing. There are a number of systems which will be released and a number of systems which will be put out in the coming months as we go further through the same organization on the health side, but in Italy. But the Chinese organization, production, and the Keshe Foundation in Italy will work in hand, because one nation cannot supply everything. I thank a number of people who've been instrumental in bringing the technology into this level with their support. People like Rick, Vince, Marco, Armand, and other knowledge seekers who have worked so hard with Dr. Elia to make the technology to be understood that the knowledge is free, freely distributed, and is for you to put it back into the society the correct way. I've been talking just before this we start the program about the protection systems which we will release development of in the coming months for protection of individuals in respect to cyber attacks and cyber interactions, microwave interactions, and the rest. I was just explaining to Rick that on our computers now we are using a very simple system which we have developed, and it works. And in a coming time, the Keshe Foundation China will commercialize these, that you can buy a unit to add to your system, which through plasmatic condition will absorb most of the radiations which will be emitted even for televisions. This way, any information which is sent on will be blocked. You can see the picture of one of these simple systems on the screen now, but the single way like this creates more problem. It has to be done in a specific way. This will not solve the problem as a simple body system. Structures like this, which will be absorbing the total bandwidth of the frequencies and plasmatic magnetic fields, which can be harmful, and you feel it. You feel the change when you use them. We've been using these on our laptops for some times, and now we put it to be commercialized. One of the points which, as you know, organization like ours is continuously under attack by different groups who want to, or people who want to, what we say, confirm their existence. They're so meager that through an organization like us, they want to say they're more powerful and they can do it. One of these people sits in Canada, and the organization is in Canada, which has been trying to hijack the Gmail, the PayPal, the iCloud of the foundation in past 2 weeks. We know who you are and we warn you, back off, or we have to take steps to cover ourselves. One more attempt by you in trying to hijack the Gmail or the iCloud will be responded heavily. We do not harm, but we make sure you cannot harm. You know who you are and you listen to this program. If we receive one more cross line trying to hijack the iCloud, the PayPal, the Gmails of the Keshe Foundation, or my private Gmail, we will respond heavily. We do not make a threat, we just defend ourselves. The line comes through Canada and we know who it is and how they are doing it. This is the last time we warn you. I've just seen Sohail putting on, if you need any information about the purchasing of the paint pads and the CO2 and other products of the foundation in the coming time, you have to contact info@omegaquantum.com. That's info@omegaquantum.com, and they will respond to you. On the technological development, we have to explain to you a further point in your protecting yourselves, as we have seen with our communication lines. The new structure of control and defense is through the cameras you have on your laptops. They can, while you are sitting in front of it, find the distance, the position you have in respect to your camera, and tune all sorts of frequencies in for you to receive. And so we advise you the way we do, block all your cameras when you're not using and sit offline of your screen whenever you work, if you can do, especially when you sit in the Skypes and other conditions. The most important point is that the diseases now are transferred through frequencies on the internet. Because once you're sick, you need to use their medicine. Most of these kind of things has become a commercial value and area by area. What this means, they decide for you to have a certain kind of disease in a certain area because the hospital needs finances. So you find you see increase in disease in that area because they inject it through the waves and through the systems of the computer's internet. And most of these are used by using your camera to decide if you fit the image, what they need to be sick to do the testing. It's becoming very complicated and it's very advanced in this process. As we have seen this week, Kaspersky has released information about how every computer can be spied on. We've been aware of this by the securities for some time and we protect ourselves. Now we advise the people who work around the foundation or you listen to these programs to start protecting yourselves. In a way, what they have started to do is image fitting the disease. They are looking for a 50, 60-year-old. If the image is right for that kind of disease, they choose you and you receive the wave to be sick for that disease. And unfortunately, space organizations like NASA and the others have a huge hand in development of these technologies. They developed it for different purpose, but it's getting abused. As institute now, as Keshe Foundation has become, is our responsibility to protect the society and inform the society. And then from now on, you will hear quite a lot of these things from us as we protect ourselves. As part of the defense, we teach you what we've been doing and what you need to do to protect yourselves. Is there any question?
Thank you, Mr. Keshe. That's very interesting. Several years ago, I did a little video of I put a crystal radio in front of the computer screen, and I could hear the radio signals being given off by my computer screen. And I can show the setup here on the live stream of the video. I'd have to play it with some of the weird sounds and so on that come through, but a crystal radio can actually pick up the signal from a computer screen, and the signal changes according to the colors and shapes on the screen. So I have no doubt that through certain frequencies induced by the colors on the computer screen, combined with certain tendencies a person might have, or other cross frequencies and that kind of thing that could be introduced, it would be possible to cause harm to someone.
I don't know, some people close to us know and some people known for some times. When we used to live in Belgium, the Belgian authorities purchased the house next door and fully equipped it with all sorts of electronic gadgets, bombarding us with the waves and blocking systems and all sorts. We are aware of it, we've been aware of it, and the strange thing is some people know that the house next door was empty, but 1, 2 o'clock in the morning we could hear mobile phones ringing from it. So it was heavily controlled, and they were literally brain waving us. And we realized in certain part of the house we have different emotions and feelings. So we've been target of what you call these kind of wave attacks. Even the telecom company of the Belgium, they came 3 times, 2 engineers, 6, 7 hours each time, trying to find out what is going on. And then when they brought their computers and detectors or whatever with the laptops, the guy stopped outside, says, "This is done. That's what is happening. There is nothing you can do." So we've been under these kind of attacks by the Belgium. It was part of the IMEC. We know who they are now, and these are not fairy tales. But they targeted.
Let me try to play just one little section of this. I'm not sure if I can get the audio to come through, but I'll just try to play it so you can see the different colors that come up on the screen here. I'll zoom in a little bit and see if this... The light blue is a much more faint, daintier kind of sound. Whereas the dark blue is more, like you would think, more robust. But nowhere near as strong as the red block. Just wanted to show this pretty cool effect here of involved with the same thing that I'm editing the movie that I'm going to include this movie in. And you can see the movie in the background here. It's of the one where I'm moving squares of colors behind the beta blocker on the screen, and we get the response.
These are the change of color as you see on the screen.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying, is just the change of color is enough to change the frequency. In fact, it's through frequencies that they change the color on the actual screen of the computer. And so it'd be easy to mix the frequencies in a certain way to resonate or to produce a certain effect. Interesting. There was a question from somebody who asked, who is concerned about this.
Stop, please. I just read somebody called Robert Lelum. Can you read his input? This is the ultra narrow bandwidth technology. I helped in development of these devices, and I warned the senior engineers about this issue. So we see elites sitting with us, people who understand. If you're in that position, you helped. Maybe you're still in that environment, you can help the technology with the foundation to be able to measure and test the technology for absorbing these things. Get in touch through the Keshe Foundation, or if you know who Robert Lelum is.
I know that he has been around a while, so if he would like to get in touch with someone.
Contact Rick. We'll be interested talking with you.
Sure.
Your knowledge can be very valuable for humanity.
That's the kind of thing you need, probably, is someone who's got the experience in that realm in the ordinary sense, but also has the experience with the Keshe technology and knowing the capabilities and limitations and so on of the way that goes, and can sort of mix them together if there's a good intent there to do it for a peaceful purpose. Then that seems like a good combo.
One of the top scientists who's going joining us, maybe even before the start of the university, is one of the leading gravitational scientists, doctors in Italy, who has crossed the gravitational technology with medical application. But he could not find a solution in that respect until he started reading the books and the topics of the, the lectures of the Keshe Foundation, and now he has actually came to see us, and we have accepted him as a master, but he joined beforehand with Marco and Armand in developing or what they call perfecting the lift systems, because he has managed to achieve lift in a different way, and now he sees it a much easier way. So we look for a specialist. They can join us even before the start of the university, which can develop and be ready for application and implications around the world.
And what is the best way for people to get in touch at this point? Are you still waiting to make an announcement on that, or is there a way they can
At the
reach by email?
moment, the only way, if you have that kind of intentions of or knowledge that you can share, use the normal channel spaceshipinstitute@gmail.com. Spaceshipinstitute@gmail.com. You put the topic, if you want to collaborate or you want to work with the foundation as a spin-off development, and then in that case we send it to the people in Italy, or we send it to Sohail, or we bring it in as development space technology in Barry. We will decide with you how you want to do it. There is a section will be set up as a spin-off immediately from the beginning of the establishment of the institute. We are three of us, Armand, Marco and me. We are in Bari next Thursday. Most probably we do the workshop from there to see all these things set up in the way we wanted, that from the beginning of April the spin-offs can start working, and then the institute can start from May. Yeah, spaceshipinstitute@gmail.com. Any other question or anything you want to start with?
Just to complete this idea of the people and this directed energy and so on, there was one particular question from somebody who's concerned about being targeted with this directed energy type weapons or devices, and he gets these symptoms of pain. These people get pain, and they say that it's an artificially induced symptom. The target has no actual pain, but from any authentic medical injury related issues, but they trick the brain into believing it has a real systemic problem. So the question is, would the pain pad be effective for people targeted with directed energy? That would be the magnetic pain pad, I guess we're discussing here. That's available now from the quantum folks.
Maybe it is. We don't understand most of these technologies because it's created behind hidden doors and used for benefit of individuals or companies. Very interesting is I was discussing this recently. All these information they have to create what do you call it, diseases and pains. Why don't they use these on these groups of terrorists? Let them have enough pain that they forget they want to be nasty or create mayhem. If these technologies are available to these people to create suffering to scientists and normal people, why don't they target their effort, if they really mean to bring peace, to let people with a, what do you call it, destructive mind to suffer, that they have enough pain that they forget to do any destruction? If they have access, I've just seen somebody putting patent numbers on. Why don't they use the satellite system? and put all these tens of thousands of people very easily into suffering, pain and diseases which they cause for the others. So there's a big question, ethos of all these patterns, why they are using it, targeting it on certain people. We go on a new topic if there is no other question. As you've seen in the SSI-1 laboratory, we have freed the dog, as we say. We took the leash off this week. The hanging unit was rotating on its base, so Armin and I, we decided that we're gonna open and let the elastic go, and now it's free. And since we have freed it, it's not moving that much, but it's getting very heavy. You feel it, you cannot move it. This position itself, the system, as you see it live online, in a specific position in past 24 hours, and is not literally moving as such. With Marco, we were on the floor this morning, and we see that maybe Marco's idea is that this position itself in line with the other three reactors which are running. You see two of them, there is one in the background, the submarine unit, I call it. But on the other hand, it is possible that it has moved in a position away from the reactor number 6, which is hanging on the top. So now it's trying to establish a new balance condition too. The reactors are all operating, and this morning, as a result of this position, you can see SSI-1 has been put on the floor and the box has been taken away. And all the reactors are on the same, more or less, level to interact. We run this for another maximum 2 to 3 weeks, and when we move to Barry, the whole setup will move to the lab in Barry, and we'll see what happens there. The interaction of the fields is very slow, but detection of it, we see it even this morning. It's a small amount of increase on a regular basis over a week, not constantly. The field in the room are very powerful. You feel them when you go in. If you're sensitive like me, you feel the pressures, the magnetic field pressures. The reactor hanging has rotated about 180 degrees in the past week, and it's taken a new position. The way you see it, if you go back on the previous recordings, the white stick you see, which carries reactor number 5, used to be exactly 180 degrees on the other side. And the system has rotated and positioned itself in that condition. And now we see the same behavior now as we saw it when it was hanging. If you remember, it started with 1.6 kilogram, and it went down to 10.65 kilogram, and then it built its weight back up to about 13 kilogram. It seems that now we're going into the weight increase, because on the legs, you can't see so close, we see it, that the system is digging into. You see brown marks, which comes like a burn marks, where before we used to see black marks on the floor. So this is a behavior we have to see. It's a repeat of what we've seen before. The system up to a limit of plasmatic condition reduces weight, and then it finds a balance and increase weight to submerge. And this is repetition 3 times we've seen it. So it becomes part of the investigation for the master degree guys to analyze, and how you increase the weight and how decrease the weight, and understand and develop it. The production of materials in the room are, I have seen conditions that explains to me materials are getting developed in the lab. So we see fields which can lead to production of matter. The movement of the system is what we call like a vibration, and at this moment we do not see any more vibration. Where we could see the vibration, I wrote on the live stream like Saturday morning, the system was vibrating. Now which is digging in, the vibration is not there. So it means it's not in a condition of lift, it's in a condition of sinking. Are there any questions about the reactors before we go and learn from the others?
Yeah, I have a question about the reactors. Inside the SSI 1 and 2, the little hemispheres, the motors are in the inside on the bottom. Are they nano-coated or are they just normal?
What do you mean, the loaders?
The motors. Are they messing up the fields inside is what I'm trying to get to.
In the little helmet of Armin, all the motors are outside.
Okay, that's what I need to know. All right, thank you.
In SSI, in SSI, sorry about this, a joke here. In SSI 1, the motors are inside, the mountings are inside, and they are part of the structure. Our mascot just walked in. You might hear him announcing his presence soon. The system which Arman has nano-coated the helmet, I told you you're going to hear him soon because he loves Arman. Somehow the coating between the top and the bottom plate has been breached, because Arman did a test this week, and you can feel what you call short circuit. We can measure it. The situation with Marco, we don't know. Yours is not SSI 1, is not short circuit between the top and the bottom, is it? We didn't try, we're gonna find out. So, have you put the picture of what you're making on the internet? The one you're making yesterday, you're good in putting things now. Okay. If you can go, we can show it live here. We go on camera, show you something. As I said, we work on the edge of whatever we do, and we don't hold anything back, you will see. You want to show it? No, it's your job, it's your baby, you explain. Because this work, can you see the video, Mark, Rick?
Yes,
see it here.
Yep.
Okay. If you can put this as half of the image on the video, And the other half, you can put on your page the picture of a helmet. There is a replication, but in different ways. Armand will explain to you what is done. But I'll explain to you how these two systems, both built by Armand, are replication of the same principle. The little helmet on the floor, if you look at it, we discussed it before, carries wires, 4 wires, 2 to the top. Yeah, you can go on and smoke. I'll try to drag it on till you come back. Armand's going for his coffee and his smoke, so he won't be able to talk. So these two are literally applying the same principle. That's perfect. If you look at the helmet, it has 2 wires connected to the top and 2 wires to the bottom. And the other wires you see is for running of the motors. These wires on the top are connected internally with what we call like parachutes, the ones you've seen in our original Coca-Cola bottles. And the principle thought behind this has been everything in that system is nano-coated except the cores which are inside. The domes are nano-coated, the plate bottom is nano-coated. The concept and the principle behind this is that once the free plasma is generated, by inducing power through nano layers, we will increase the magnetic fields of the nano coating to suppress or expand, depends what we decide, the size of the plasma in the free environment, and then we can increase it beyond the boundary of the helmet, and you see the interaction of the fields outside. So the whole concept has been to compress fields, as we spoke last week, gravitational magnetically, and the only way you can do that is by increasing the magnetic field of your nanolayers. And as you've seen, by introducing current to a plate in a salt environment or in a given environment, you can produce nanolayers. And when you produce these nanolayers, they create their own gravitational magnetic field, so you can increase the power on the center core. We have not achieved it for a couple of reasons. One is the top and bottom are connected. They have to be now isolated, that we can create the pressure in different way. And on the other hand, one of the strange things which Armand sees, and he's measured it, is that his his power supply shows a current flow, but shows 0 voltage. There is a 0 voltage, but he has a current flow in the structure. So we're trying to ascertain how this is done, so he's trying to find out. Now, if you bring back the same knowledge of suppressing the fields to increase its power, to add to its gravitational magnetic field in the helmet, we have transferred the same knowledge back to this board. This has just been, it's not totally finished yet. Armand is still working on it until late last night. In this process, we've done the same thing. In here, Armand will explain to you, he has created an environment to create gravitational magnetic field compression. And using that compression field forces to extract the energy of the compression through the center wire. The ratio of the conversion very much depends on the amount of the GaNs and on the nanolayers. So by squeezing the fields, he is trying to extract energy, and he's added it to a load, and now we have operation of two, both AC and DC, because of the configuration of the load and the wire. So this little gadget is doing exactly the same job as in the helmet, and is using exactly the same concept and the same material, where in the helmet we release the fields of the plasmas of the GANs in the cores, which are collected in the center, through the external fields of the dome and the plate. So I give the headphone to Armand to explain to you further what he's done, and then we will go ahead with the rest.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. As you can see, there is three components uh, of this device. It's in the middle, and a coil surround the middle electrode and the shell. It's all nano-coated inside. The coil, the middle, and the shell from inside, not from outside. And total plasmatic field inside, filled up with the copper GaNs. What we're gonna do, we're gonna put the load from the coil, pressurize plasma, and collect AC from middle electrode and DC from outside of middle electrode. And it's gonna be a slow process, which we're gonna build a pressure, which gonna produce GaNs, which gonna pressurize the middle electrode where we can collect the energy. Is there any questions that I can answer?
Where is the GANs there exactly?
Here. If you see this part, there's a hole right here.
Right.
Okay, which I fill the GaNs in the tube.
Okay.
So here it goes. This is the coil. Okay, if you can see, this is the middle electrode, which passes through. And this is the shell. Okay, let me do different way. This is the shell. This is the middle electrode. Coil. And the middle electrode. So it's very simple device. And okay, it's nano-coated inside the tube, all the coil and middle electrode. And the GaNs in the tube. So by applying small electricity voltage, we're going to start to create GaNs, because the GaNs inside, I added little salt water actually. So it's the same thing that we produce in GANs. We're going to produce GANs now in a smaller and closed environment, which we can produce pressure, plasmatic pressure, to pressurize the middle electrode and collect the energy. Any questions?
So Armin,
Yes.
can you have the, first of all, can you check your mic? It sounds like there's breathing in the mic. Can you, have you, or are you going to try a feedback into the coil from the extracted, from the energy extracted aspect? Like, can you use that as a feedback, or do you have to supply an external input to be able to receive an output, or have you tried?
You have to have internal input 0.001 amp, very little energy.
That's what a GAN's creation cell gives you.
Yeah, you just need a little energy to just start producing GANs. And it's going to take a time until, you know, you start to pressurize the middle electrode. Because as much as I tried to put less water inside the container, but you're still gonna have still a little bit water. So this part we have to fill up with the GANs that we can pressurize the middle electrode actually. It's very simple, guys. It's plasmatic pressure, which crosses the nano-coated material to matter state, electron state. And on the top of the nano-coated, this part, which is not finished yet, here, I can connect onto a nano-coated part, and actually it's a DC. One here and one connection on nano-coated part, so I can collect DC. This, the setup, it's AC collection. But if I connected on top of the nano-coated material one electrode and one electrode from here, so I can have DC. So you can collect both type of energies, DC and AC. Any questions? Hello?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay.
We're all
Breathe.
pondering.
I can hear you guys.
I can just hear the breathing. That's
We
all.
can hear you. Yeah.
I'm alive.
Yeah, you're definitely live. Geez. So, have you done any testing on this yet, or is it's going to take a while?
I finished yesterday, so today
Right.
I will connect to little load and see what we can collect out of it. So, but this is actually a unit that can produce a lot of energy. You know, I just understand one thing, that this is going to run approximately 20, 30 years.
I have a question, Armin.
Yes.
What is the load that you have on there? What is the gold thing?
Resistor.
Any
High power resistor.
specific? Okay. Do you think any resistor would work in that aspect, or does it have to be a certain type?
It depends on what amount of energy you're going to produce. It's how your configuration is set up.
Right, because if you think about, we usually take and put a LED in the place of that resistor to create the GANs
You can,
inside. That's
you can put LED, but I'm not looking for lighting up LED. You know, this setup
right,
can
right.
go up to several kilowatts. This is the unit that you can build
So,
at your house, and just
I
have
mean,
your
I think
own.
that's important. I think that was important what you just said there. Is that with an LED, okay, when we hook it up in our GANs creation cells, the system provides what is being requested, as in we've all lit LEDs with our GANs creation cells, even though the current in them shouldn't be enough that it lights the LED. We've seen that a number of times. This, though, I see it as if you have a high resistance or a high capacity for a resistance there, then the system is always going to be asking to provide more energy to it because it can take that energy.
Yes, correct. You
Is
have
that
to create
the way I see
demand.
it?
You
You
have
have
to
to
create
create the
demand.
demand,
Yes.
even though
Without demand, there is
the
no use. So field's going to be imbalanced.
That's
to
the
a
way the
point, and
universe
after
works.
that point, yeah, after that point, though, after the balance point, it will provide more than what it did before, as in you can hook it up to different devices that require less power than what that resistor is able to absorb or resist, right? The impedance. Is that right?
Yes.
So
So
changing that
I
resistor to
want.
even a higher aspect at a certain point in time should even increase that more.
If you create the demand, this unit is capable, my thinking, that can provide like up to 3 to 5 kilowatt energy.
Okay, can you also point out on there again where you were saying you were seeing AC and then the DC aspect of it?
See, AC, it's collected from the copper part. So if you see right here, I cleaned up the nano coated part. Here, I can show you that you have an understanding. 1 minute. Oh.
You could also put a tap into that other thing you have there, right? Or is that nano coated that it's connected to there?
No. If I have a screwdriver, 1 minute, I will show it to you in detail that you have an understanding. 1 minute. Oh, this tip. Okay. Yeah, you can do your own setup, but I'll explain you here. This part
Okay, so
is,
it is fully taken and
yeah.
sanded. Okay.
See this one? Okay.
Have you ever seen science to control such a top secret technology?
And so that wire is just going straight through. Is the other side not
Yeah,
taken? Is it
other
not
side is the
stripped?
same way. This side is
Oh, it
same
is
way.
stripped as well.
Yes, that's why you collect AC. AC you collect from matter part, and DC you collect from nano coated.
Oh, check your mic again, please.
What is it? Oh, my.
Check your mic again, please. Or up or down. Okay, and the coil, that's where you just add the energies, the ones that are
Yes,
going off to the right.
Yes, from the. Okay, yeah. This is the load. Okay, with the load we create a magnetic pressure because it's going to produce GANs, and the GANs is going to be more compact inside, which going to put a pressure to the middle electrode through the nano-coated part, pass it through to the copper, and you collect AC. On top of the nano-coated, you collect DC. When you cross that barrier, that the GAN is going to pressurize enough to cross it, the nano-coated part to copper, then you collect your energy. This is plasmatic magnetic pressure, which you are creating with the coil by producing GANs, which is pressurizing middle electrode, then you have your energy. GANs are plasmatic. Nano-coated material is plasmatic. When it crosses that part to matter, then you collect AC. On top of it, you collect DC. Any questions? Yeah, I already told. Yeah.
Do we have any other questions for Armin from GoToMeeting or Skype or live stream?
There was a question. There is a question. What is the middle connection? See the middle connector right in the very center of your coil there.
Here?
No, keep going.
Which
no,
one?
On the tube, I think.
keep going.
This
There,
one?
that one, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, this is connected to the tube, and it's not nano-coated.
Just a single coil, single wire coil tap.
Yeah, single wire.
Right, like a magnetic tap, sort of. Okay. And what do you plan on putting power into that or taking power off of that?
What is it? I am so sorry, Rick. I couldn't hear you.
Are you planning on taking power off of that or putting power into that? Or
Power into it.
Or some other thing. Okay, you put power into that heavier wire in the very center. Is that what you're saying? That
Yes.
middle one. Okay.
This one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, this is for collection actually.
Okay. Yeah.
Only input. It's these two
Right.
ends, the coil ends.
Okay, that makes sense. Okay, that answers that question.
It's flexible system actually. You can use all the parts in here.
Mm-hmm.
Legs, arms. Yeah. Yeah, even the tube can be, nano layer from the tube. Yeah, can pressurize.
So, what was the input power again? Voltage that you would be trying?
I'm
You're
gonna try.
Like maybe a volt or two, that range, or?
No, it's too much.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah.
Amperage is 0.001 maybe.
Right. So, but what would the voltage be? That's what I'm wondering.
Around about 4 to 5 volts.
Four
to
to
5 volts.
Okay.
Control. Yeah.
Power go in the touch when it going is allowing the release of atom in the plasmatic condition to stay down.
It's hard to hear that. Could you repeat it, Armin?
The whole, Armin, you're gonna get it back, just wait 1 second. The whole purpose is to to increase the release of atomic structure that the matter release. It's very much the people who understand the other side of the technology of power production is in plating. When you plate a metal, you take atomic structure from one plate and you deposit it on the other plate. For that, you use high current. In nanomaking condition, in that, the process of plating, you use acid. The environment is different. Once you change the environment to a salt condition, you go to low-level power supply need. This is the difference. And in this condition, once the atom is separated from the structure like the copper plate, due to presence of sodium, does not get attracted to the other plate because it's magnetically charged. So it separates from the face of the matter, but cannot become atomic structure to add or be added or to join the other plate. This is what we always say, it's the conditions you create. In plating, you use acid and a higher voltage. In the human body, nanomaterials are made with microamps with a salt condition. You add different type of salt. Here, especially Arman injected this little amount of salt into the tube before he had the copper oxide GaNs. So he's dictating the condition that the whole structure is not in detaching, but in creating to hold on to. So with a very low current, with a salt environment, with the presence of the GaNs of the copper oxide, the environment is created for the atomic structure to detach itself from the plate, but still strong enough to be attached to it, then becomes nano. And then with the presence of the other GaNs materials, like copper oxide and the salt, the environment of detachment carries on further with other conditions in the tube, that now the nano separates itself as a plasma and becomes a GaNs. This is why we call it a GaNs, gas in nano state. When you create a plate, when you plate one element with another material and you connect the electrodes and the power, you create an immediate separation without transition to vapor. In a GaNs process, in a salt condition, no material goes through the atomic structure removal, but it goes through a gas state semi-atomic condition. So you create a vapor, a gas of the element immediately on the surface. And that's why we call it the gas in nano state. And what you achieve in this structure is you create a condition that the ganses, you convert all the copper atoms in a matter state into a nano, into a GANs, and the process has to carry on. That the reason we used copper and copper, we didn't use a copper and let's say zinc or aluminum wire. If you go back to your tests, when you had a zinc plate and a copper, you create an environment of CO2. You can repeat this process again with your systems, close it, and put a zinc wire through it, and the salt, and CO2. Then you create a magnetic environment around the tube that attracts CO2. One of the reasons we built this was to show the new production of gravitational magnetic fields for instruments. What do we do if we go and put zinc in the middle and add a small amount of CO2 and a little bit of salt? The elements will convert only the CO2 which is in the environment of the water before it's sealed into a CO2 gas. And if you can keep that at a constant level, now the system will create a gravitational magnetic field of CO2 and you can collect CO2. This is another version of CO2 units we commercialize now. But if you go back to the process of the copper and copper, where you produce copper oxide, in this process, by putting a copper on both sides of the plate, of the environment, one in the center and one in the surrounding, we have created a specific condition that the nanomaterial can be released and only in copper level. So all the material which are used or created as a GANs in this unit initially will be copper oxide, because there is some water with oxygen in it in this container. And when the atomic structure of the water releases all its system, all its oxygen to the copper, then you achieve the production of atomic hydrogen. But at the same time, because of the copper-copper condition, you create an environment where its magnetic gravitational field strength is of the pure copper. So you can put this system in the environment where you can collect copper from the environment. The expansion and the extension into this is by dictating the sealed unit which you see here. For example, in the environment of, let's say, Beijing or Shanghai or London, you try to find the poisons or the materials which are in the environment due to environmental contamination, and you just drop this system and you tune the current to the production, and then the material attracts all the, let's say, lead from the air or copper from the air. This is one of the reasons I asked Armand to produce this, is to show a new dimension in matter absorption. This, now that we've gone further in the understanding of the technology, these are the new magnets created by the environment inside the cylinder. But once you put that condition in, it's permanent. This system, once it's adjusted and works properly, will only attract copper. You can literally put it in a copper mine and collect copper around it. Because now it works in an atomic structure plasmatic condition. This is how planets absorb matters from their environment of the solar system. So now we are going in a simple way, showing the work of the universe galaxial condition. This is extending the knowledge into production of material in space. In your free plasma, you create a combination of different energies, and you create such a system in your reactor or separately, and in that environment, whatever energy in the plasma of the free core is, which is in parallel or equal to this detector, will be collected. And then this is how the new magnetic field technology adds to the knowledge. If people understand what is on the table, what Arman has shown in a very simple way, will change a lot of things, even in water contamination, in purification of water. You want to withdraw, let's say, any copper in a drinking water in your house, you put one of these at the strength of the copper, and then what do you call it, calcium if it's too much in the water, and then the system just attracts it as it passes. You don't touch anything else you want in your system. This is one of the reasons I went for this now, goes back in the discussion and the teaching of the medical side with Dr. Elia last week. The process of making dialysis systems without intrusion in the body for the working of the kidney. In fact, because the condition of poisons in the blood, what you call the surplus material which has to be released by the blood, is in a GANS gravitational magnetic field, you can add this as a wristwatch on the body and collect the poisons which you want to take out of the blood. Because at that point, the blood carries a gravitational magnetic field strength of the matter, not the matter. So this extension goes to the extension of dialysis machines. In the coming time, we show the working of this. So the machine can continuously adjust itself to different strength of different materials which you want to extract from the body. The same way as you receive most of your energy from the environment, you can extract matters from the environment in the energy level and then convert it to matter.
Mr. Kesh, there was a question, can sulfur-based drugs, pharmaceuticals that reside in the body be removed by a process like that?
Yes, of course. This is one of the process of the spin-offs in the university. We said we changed the course, but slowly, slowly, as a large number of people are understanding more, we teach more. Now you understand, you've seen the process, now Armand will show the process. You need very, very low amount of current flow. Your brain does not produce kilowatts and megawatts of energy to create plasmas of the matter in the body. It works in micro and nano level. And this process is that. This is what we're trying to extend the knowledge. The work of kilowatts and megawatts, which has been pushed through by the knowledge of Tesla and Edison, has to be shelved. You achieve higher power production, higher efficiency, better performance with very, very low plasmatic current flow. The reason you work with a high power and high voltage in Tesla systems or Edison's, I would call it AC and DC, is because you are using one field only and you rely on the vibration, physical vibration. The reason you work on a low power, low energy, because you work on a plasmatic condition and you don't work on vibration, but you work on magnetic field movement. Vibration is energy consuming. That's why you have to work with the high powers and high transitions and high systems. You can create a fridge, a freezer with mega ohms and megawatts. And you can make systems which can go below hundreds of thousands of degrees centigrade or Fahrenheit. It happens in the universe. If you understand what Arman has put on the table and he has explained to you in a very simple way, this is the beauty of working with Arman. He makes knowledge so reachable by every man. Is that you do not need to work in limits of man's stupidity and imagination to prove power position. People have to change the condition of work, the condition of application. If you could understand what this simple system on the table explains and how it works, its application and implication, you do not need to create panels of hundreds of kilowatts to create heat or to create energy. The small units like this, like a small cores you have, can give you enough energy to achieve what you like and when you like it. Extract material, extract environments. As I said, now this system, if you can do it the proper way with zinc and copper, you have a leaf on the table which you control its absorption rate or absorption of CO2. This is a leaf, there is nothing else to it. You sow the leaf in a CO2, now we cascaded it inside. The CO2 kit, which is marketed by the Omega Quantum with the salt, now this is a step further to its development. This is for what the researchers are to be done and the spin-offs to be done, that you can produce a simpler version and with a very little energy, because the energy, if you go back into the teachings of the stomach this week, I explained how conversion of the matter to a gans in the stomach releases the energy which the stomach wall uses to support its motion and the movement of the stomach itself. Now you can use the same thing, the same understanding. The application of this technology, the way Arman has put it on the table, is not even understood, is beyond the imagination of any of you. But in a very simple way, it will change the course of the matter production, environmental cleanup, and everything else. Till these systems are not made and put on the table, people cannot understand the potential. In so many ways, a system like this, as Arman explained, works a dual way, AC and a DC. The point is, do we need the production of AC, where everything works on DC? Yes, we do. Because up to now, most of you have not understood the process. You need AC to convert the gans into a matter. you need DC to operate within the GaN's low current voltage environment. And it seems that nobody has realized this up to now in all the teachings. That's why from the beginning we thought both powers at the same time. Because when you have an AC, you introduce a wave, and the bandwidth of this wave and its amplitude will dictate what matter penetration will be created. And then you convert the gas into the matter state, using the current of itself as a DC to power it. So when you produce GaNs in the space, GaNs is no use to you because you cannot weld it, you cannot do anything with it. Then you need to say what frequency or what bandwidth of amplitude you need to be, and then that energy, that plasma converts to the matter you need. And this is how your body converts plasmatic magnetic field in your limbs into the GaNs state as a matter at the point of need. But it does not go the next step to convert it into matter. But when you discharge the material from the body, the production of the gases in the body, because it becomes between a crystal structure and an atomic structure, which the crystal structure is near the GaNs structure, allows the conversion of the GaNs into matter state. So by adding a slight amount of energy or extracting from it in a certain bandwidth and amplitude, you decide from this plasma which I have extracted or have, I want copper, I want aluminium, I want zinc in a space. And you convert your GaNs into the matter state. Then you have constructions, you have tangibility to do, and this is how the universe works. And this unit on the table is literally historical because it brings the whole knowledge of man into existence of conversion of matter to gas and the rest. It is very simple, but this is exactly how your body works. You change the current flow in these two entries. What you see is very simple. Here, it's okay. Here, you change the voltage and the current into the system. And you change the environment around here, what you're going to get out of it. It's going to be a copper, or it's going to be a zinc, or it's going to be CO2. This is one of the reasons our collaboration with the Japanese government is important in respect of Fukushima. And this will allow having, instead of copper or zinc, we have one mono base, and we decide through the current input what is going to be the environment inside. Then the matter state is dictated by the need. This is exactly conversion system in the human body. As we explained in the teaching of this week, we change the matter which you swallow, be it zinc, be it leaf of a lettuce, being a tomato, into a nano through the caustic condition of the potassium. Then we change it to presence of the salt into a GaNs, and then we release it for different strength layers of the intestine to absorb the energy. And that energy as a package stays on its own, and when it's needed, it'll manifest itself as a potassium or calcium or whatever at the point of the right AC, DC, amplitude, what do you call it, bandwidth in magrav strength, not in matter state. And then the matter appears as a magrav at that point. This is the conversion system. And it works exactly as you see. And the brain sends a very, very small nano current for this to be done in a plasmatic condition. Any questions?
So it doesn't have to be a plasmatic current added onto? Sorry.
If you add a plasmatic current, then you create a plasma of the matter, the GANs of the matter. If you use the AC current, you convert the material into matter state. The current, the current of the plasma, when it comes to a matter, has to be able to travel between the gaps between the atoms or ganses. That's why you get the frequency. That's why you get the amplitude. Because it has to find its way around the atom. And when it's in the gravitational magnetic field, the strength in the plasmatic condition, it just flows through it. When it converts into the matter, because of it's like a dam you put in front of the flow of the water, it tries to find a way to get through the dam. So this is what it does. And trying to get through the dam, each atom of the dam, in a way, each brick in the structure has certain size and certain gap next to brick. So it has to find how far it needs to go through which gap and to find its way to become. And then it becomes sized to the size of that brick. But in plasmatic condition, the size of that brick is the gap in the structure of the plasma, of the GANs, and then nano, and then decides the creation of matter. I see somebody write, that is why so beautifully also the health section is included right from the beginning. In so many ways, yes, because the working of the body, as we always said, we use the body of the man as a galaxy to show the work of the universe. So what you don't understand in the nanotechnology, in explaining in the health side, some people understand part of it, then you can complain it, you can show it in the teaching of the plasma. And this is how it works. And in so many ways, what we saw with Mike 2-3 weeks ago, and then we saw with his explanation of the tubes, now maybe Mike can add to the knowledge by adding a current to his tubes. That's what I was explaining last time. Then you don't need to, in so many ways, create different shielding systems.
Right there. Can you hear me?
Who's speaking? Is that Mike?
Sounds like Mike.
Good morning, Mike. You're awake.
Good morning. I've been awake for the last about 36 hours. It's been a fantastic journey.
I woke up very early this morning because I thought it was a Peace Corps meeting. They called the meeting and they canceled it without telling anyone. So I was sitting there waiting for it. I called Rick. I said, Rick, he says, oh, it seems they canceled it. They found out there's a teaching going on. So I think they're all the same.
Well,
carry on.
Yes, we're all tired. Everybody, all of these workshops.
Tell us what mischief you've been up to in past 36 hours.
I can show you some of your recent pictures of equations here, Mike. Is that what you'd like to discuss, maybe?
Yes, we can talk about the equations, but I have to introduce a new element, and I need to discuss with the workshop about creating a new periodic table.
Can I add something? Because I saw an input from, I think, Dr. Elia, in respect to a Japanese scientist who's working on the same kind of level as you do. We need to make a link and connection with him, or if you can do, because apparently he speaks your language. Maybe you can enlighten each other, or at least we can get enlightened by your knowledge, both of you.
I think the gentleman in Japan and, well, everybody across the world he will find the knowledge seekers that follow me on Facebook and on the Spaceship Institute. They were all privy to that information and that discovery as it came to me. The Prime Creator is working in mysterious ways.
We are losing Mike's voice.
I'll wait.
Yeah, Mike, you're cutting out. Might need to find a different position for your internet to be a little better.
It's not my internet. You guys are trying to be censored. Missing.
You still there? Hello?
Can you hear me?
I think we're getting something loaded in the background. That's what is creating the gap. Every time we hear a click, we hear a gap.
Okay. Somebody else has got their mic.
Something is getting loaded in the background.
It could be Rick's clicking too.
Yeah. Something is getting loaded, and that load is slowing the transmission. Okay, carry on, Mike, please.
Rick, can you, if you can hear me, duality, one electron picture, it's yellow and green with purple writing. I sent it to you today. It says pre-hydrogen at the top. I'm waiting for it to show up on my screen here.
Marco, we are freezing. We lost all the heat. Now we got to start heating up.
No, I think I sent 6. It's the circle with the figure 8 in the center. Yes. No, not the red and white one. It's green and yellow. Scott, let me pull up my email. Hold on.
Let me get that on live stream. I think this is the one you mean.
There it is. Yes, I see it now. All right, it's time to level the playing field for all of humanity. Everybody gets the same toolbox. Everybody has the same face.
We can't see it. It's not loaded. We are refreshing. Okay, is it the yellow one? Okay. It looks like a human eye. A man with two eyes, a skeleton. Is that the one? Yeah. 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 Yeah, I see it. It's a periodic table of elements.
Yes, that is the.
Okay, carry on.
This is the very first element that is supposed to be on the periodic table of elements.
Okay. Enlighten us, please.
Go ahead. I've got a delay here, so. Okay.
Head, Mike.
This pre-hydrogen element, or the duality, comes when a proton and an electron are magnetically joined or joined by mag-grav fields. When they join, they create an infinity loop. The very first infinity loop, a negative field or another electron field. This creates an unbalance in this particular element, which will constantly make it seek to find balance, making it the key to building the elements one at a time. Okay, what you're seeing in front of you is an infinity loop inside an electron bubble or mag-grav. Okay, for people that don't quite understand what mag-gravs are, just think of them like a soap bubble wrapped around these two elements. What happens is the electron field is stronger than the proton field. Okay, it becomes the atmosphere of the proton. Eventually, the electron will absorb the proton, but since there is no space for two full-size bubbles or
We are getting gaps in talk. It's not coming
mag-gravs,
through
it has
clear.
to create.
Yeah, Mike. Mike.
Yes.
We all have the same problem.
Okay, can you? Yeah, it's definitely coming from your end, and it just seems like it's a bandwidth issue. So just find a different position.
It's okay.
Yeah, and Mr. Kish, can you mute, please? I was just getting some voice there while Mike was talking to.
Okay,
Or
sorry about
breathing.
that.
And can you try again, Mike?
All right. The proton and the electron, they join together. Okay. Eventually, the electron is going to overpower the proton and basically eat it, swallow it. There's not enough space for the entire proton's mag-grav field. Okay. It's bubble, so it has to create balance with inside that electron, the outer electron bubble that was just created. So what happens is that it creates the infinity. Well, the infinity is what creates it's the same, okay, but when it's twisted in the infinity, it creates a situation that is similar to having an extra electron with the proton to create the balance. Okay. The math equations that you saw prove the existence of two electrons around this element and one proton, making it unstable, okay, and unbalanced. They join together with another one of these elements, okay, or eventually the center infinity loops will create balance within themselves, causing the outer electron bubble or mag-grav to collapse in on itself, creating another infinity loop, okay, which is what you saw, I believe, the device that you guys just created based off of my drawings. So what happens there is you've got two infinity loops that are joined together and they create that hydrogen atom. Okay. Well, when you do the math with the infinity loops, okay, knowing that each infinity loop has one proton and once. And hydrogen has 2 electrons and 2 protons. And that's where the new table of elements will need to be created. And all we have to do
Sorry,
is
Mike,
take all
can
of the
you
atomic
repeat?
numbers and all of the atomic
Mike,
and add
you
1.
broke off. Can you explain the last 2-3 sentences
Yes.
again? You're coming in bites, so we have to guess what you're talking about. If you could repeat.
Okay. It's an attempt to keep it down. The infinity loop, what you're seeing in the center of this, the pre-hydrogen, okay, will create balance when it's within itself. All right. When it does, it no longer needs the electron field around it, okay, holding it together, and it will basically lose the pressure inside of that maggrav field, and it will collapse down into an infinity loop again, okay, creating 2 electrons and 2 protons. And it no longer has the outer shell because it's balanced. Did we get that?
I understand what you're trying to explain, but somehow maybe my knowledge is not there to understand how you make an infinity loop out of an infinity loop.
An infinity loop already, okay, when the proton and the electron join together, the electron's maggrav field is slightly stronger than the proton, okay? It is the atmosphere of the Earth. That's what's holding everything together once they join, okay? The magnetic field there. But the electron is going to absorb the proton into itself. But because the mass or the mass is equal, or is too
This
great
doesn't
for
make,
one maggrav
sorry
field.
about that. Sorry, the mass of the proton we know is 2,000 times more than the electron. So
I
one of the
understand
things
that.
so one of maybe something we need to be more solid on the knowledge is what is the basis that you say the mass of electron is higher, that it can absorb the proton?
I don't necessarily know that it's higher, but the math is proving that there are 2 electrons. Okay, and the observations that we have seen with electrons, you know, even over the times, it's not been hidden. The electron, naturally, you want to assume that the electron is the stronger field or the atmosphere that is holding all of the elements within that field, that last electron. That is where I get my derivative or my understanding
but
of
scientifically,
how
I
it
mean,
works.
if you scientifically and looking at the electronic systems as a nuclear engineer or physicist, we observe the motion of the electron as a light, and by a law of mass, the lighter element in mass always follows and has higher speed of movement than the lighter, than the heavier. So scientifically, electron cannot be heavier in mass, and its speed of motion is dictated by the mass of the center plasma. You have, maybe you can explain to us how you see that electron has a heavier mass. Its motion comes through the absorption of the energy which is released by the proton. Very much the same as what we explained in the movement of the stomach. The high speed of the electron rotation is due to the gravitational magnetic fields, which is released by the proton. I don't
I
see
believe
how.
that the way it's explained to me is, it's just pictures in my head.
Yeah.
And I think what we're looking at right here is an actual picture of what our universe looks like in the ever expanding purpose. The pictures and the information that came to me based off of this drawing, I came up with the equation, the three equations. Okay, the understanding there's the Coulomb barrier is that electron bubble. That's what's holding those two proton and electrons together because the conditions have been made.
Maybe, Mike, maybe we got to look at it the other. Maybe you have to enlighten us because you understand more than we do. the
Everything is done in infinity loop.
Yes, but the thing is,
Seeing have done
the
infinity
bubble
loop.
is, the bubble, what you call the bubble, electron bubble. This bubble is created mainly by gravitational magnetic field of the proton.
Right, and the electron.
If you take the electron, but if you take the electron away, you'll find out a very small amount of shrinkage in the size of the Coulomb barrier compared to proton. Very little. We know this scientifically, it's been measured. Very little in comparison. So the proton allows the existence and the rotation of the proton within the boundary of its plasma. It's like what you're trying to tell us is Earth dictates the plasma of the solar system. And this does not hold unless you can explain to us scientifically how you assume such a thing. It's very much saying Earth dictates the size of the plasma of the sun. This needs a deeper explanation how you see it.
Okay. You see the equations for balance. Go ahead.
Right. I was going to suggest the equations for balance there might help in your explanation. Maybe we can go through those step by step. Okay.
Sure. I think let's take a listen to what Emmanuel might have to say regarding this. I think he can. I think he understands, and he needs to explain his part a little bit, and then we'll finish up.
Somebody, Milan Dolinar, has written, so why do we need electron? We need electron to be able to collect the leakage from the proton. If we did not have the electron, the proton will go to a cycle of decay very rapidly. So electron is there for it to absorb what the fields are radiated by the proton, that, as Mike explained, in the loop to be fed back to itself. It's in a way, electron is a feedback system for sustaining longer life. Okay, carry on, please.
All right. The understanding that I have also is that when you take an infinity loop and you twist it, it changes the polarity of the opposite side. So my blue drawings here really aren't a true depiction, the blue and red. They're more of a way of showing you guys the balance. If you picture the circles being opposites, then you'll have an understanding that one, like in figure A, it would be uh, the electron bubble and then the positive bubble, or the proton bubble, excuse me. And then you have to picture that duality, or that duality right there, with another maggrav around it, with the electron field surrounding all of it. Okay, that creates the unbalance, and it will constantly seek balance. Okay, in the universe, so it's going to attract other like elements to it. Okay, when they combine, or if they don't combine because they are unbalanced, they will automatically change into the hydrogen atom, with imbalance being 2 electrons and 2 protons. Okay.
One of the things we understand in the plasma technology and partially through nuclear and atomic physics is that when you show such a condition as 2 electrons and 2 protons, as we have seen with our systems, not all the energies, what we call energy, gravitational magnetic field released by proton or by electron, is absorbed by the other one. So as I explained in the children's teaching this week, depending on the distance and how much is radiated from the system being electron and a proton, is absorbed or released in the environment that allows the condition and position of the gap between the two. When you show 2 electrons and 2 protons, and understanding that this extra energy released by another unit can be absorbed by the electron and proton, this automatically, scientifically, and from energy point of view, makes your second electron proton to a neutron. Because the energy which was released by the division of the neutron to become a proton and electron, being added to it in plasmatically is very little. So what in fact you produce scientifically, as we can understand, is not, it's what you call hydrogen atomic 2 or deuterium. Because this condition can hold. So what you put in the maggrav as center, the yellow piece between the 4, becomes the maggrav of deuterium. This we know this is how tritium and deuterium are created in nuclear power stations. Hydrogen in the atomic structure and molecular structure of the water absorbs the extra energy, and in a way, one hydrogen of the water automatically converts itself into a neutron. And that's how you add neutron to what I call proton plasma of a neutron. We call it a hydrogen to become deuterium. And then the next step comes that additional energy which is created, release of the second hydrogen in the water, becomes the second neutron in the system and become tritium. We understand this process fully, especially from plasmatic condition. So in reality, as far as I can understand from my knowledge from nuclear atomic structure and plasmatic atomic structure, and that's why if you go back to the paper of the Fukushima, we made it clear that we see the use of plutonium in reactor number 1 and in a way we've been confirmed to be correct in the process of the following months with the government. Because the plutonium in presence of the uranium and the water in the reactor cores create this condition of the high amount of energy to be released to the atomic hydrogen H2O, that the two hydrogen atoms automatically convert into neutron and add to the another free electron hydrogen which is available, and they produce deuterium and tritium.
Well, Mr.
This,
Kesh, with this pre-element, if I may,
yes.
okay, if you start out with your one infinity loop and you add two and you create valence, you have hydrogen, correct?
You see, there is another process in the world of creation, which if you come to a position of, this happens in the upper atmosphere in the condition of the near vacuum condition in the upper atmosphere, and in the human body the same, is that the hydrogen or energy of the hydrogen as a plasma, it, as what you call it, a loop, double loop, immediately converts and releases itself from nitrogen into the helium structure. And that's why you get two protons and two neutrons and the two electrons, and you have a helium. Is the additional process, if you could run a nuclear reactor like Fukushima reactor number 1, in the high plasmatic magnetic field condition of the upper atmosphere, you will produce forever continuous tritium without the conversion into helium from nitrogen conversion.
But
The
I see,
theory has to stand the reality we see, but I need to be, I need to explain myself more, and I think you got to explain to add to our knowledge your knowledge. Then somewhere we add to our knowledge totally. But this is what we see from the plasmatic nuclear structure.
right. Now, all of the
here that maybe might help too, Mike, with your other image. And Mr. Kesh, can we get you to move the microphone back just a little bit? Thank you.
picture that's on the screen was an idea that I had drawn up with another knowledge seekers. There's a video that's been floating around. I think Elias shared it, and a few other knowledge seekers about a woman making two vortices in a swimming pool and showing that they made perfect circles on the bottom of the pool, traveled the entire length of the pool until it was interrupted by the wall. And given the right conditions, I believe that it would have continued to circle if maybe the pool walls were circular in shape. But the concept here is to fill up a container full of GANs, or halfway with GANs, and create mini vortices inside the GANs. This is the same thing that I witnessed on some of the NASA pictures and videos of the sun, where they have the giant magnetic arcs, and when they arc or cross over and touch each other, that's when we get our big bursts of energy from the sun. But this is the same kind of concept where on the surface of the GANs, maybe a little flywheel or something to create a steady flow of vortices that would travel the length would cause the GANs under the surface to interact with the plasma that is trapped within the container and suck it through the vortice, creating a loop of energy and traveling across there, and being, if there's more vortices being created, more little splashes in the water, I guess, then you'll be able to get an alternating current off of it, I believe. And I showed a visual of what it would look like. And if you were to turn it 3D, it would look like an auger bit spiral. I could not portray that. The bottom left picture where you see the sine waves, I said it spins like a corkscrew. Imagine an auger bit, like they use for digging out holes, with a screw on it, a giant screw.
Let me get this straight. You're saying it would be more like a screw-shaped wave rather than a series of smoke ring type structures.
Right, it'd be a spiral.
I see.
Eh,
Where do you see that spiral in nature? In terms?
I
So
think can we explain something here about the double vortex? If you can you hear me?
yes, Mr. Guest, yes.
Yeah, we can hear you.
This the double vortex you see is due to the fact of the plate used. The two edges of the plate, each one creates its own vortex. And because they are created of the same strength with the same push, the side, because if you create a homogeneous force on the plate, the connection of the magnetic field works to vortex, or the vortex forces will connect and they merge. When one side with the hand is stronger than the other, that's what you saw, one color disappearing, the other one overtaking. The two vortexes are created because of the two end of the plate at the point of separation from the water. If you had a plate which had, let's say a fork which had 3 or 4 fingers, you will create 3 or 4 vortexes. And the connection is not magnetic. This is field forces. But because they're of the same strength, they link up. And the reason when she puts a pole in and it breaks up is because you break the field force of the matter. And the energy balance stays the same because the vortexes is made of the water, so in the medium of the water they stay constant. This phenomena is known in part of northern hemisphere, upper part of Russia, in a specific condition is known as a time of 3 suns, where the field reflection, you see 3 suns at the same time and all 3 of them look real. And it's to do with the curvature of the earth and the 2 points which they manifest themselves. Then you see 2 suns, exactly the same. You can go on the internet, you find it. The Japanese camera crew spend months to actually take one photo shot of this. So we see the same thing. It's just that the field distribution on the 2 points of the contact of the plate creates the 2 vortexes, and this is total magnetic vortexes, all to do with field. But because they are in the same media and created by the same media of the water, in rotation they have to link up. This can be explained, and in so many ways we don't see these kind of operation in atomic structure. In some structures where the electron is high speed due to its mass, we see these effects where the atomic structure shows 3 electrons, but 2 of them are false electrons. due to the same vortex, where the center is the electron itself with the highest speed. It cuts into the field of the plasma of the proton and creates the same kind of wave as you see on the water. We see this in the galaxies and in the universe, what we call mirror galaxies. In fact, there are 3 galaxies that are not mirror galaxies. The actual we don't see the third one because it's not in our horizon. Mirror galaxies is well-known phenomenon in the cosmology, where here you create 2 fields by the edge of the plate, where in the mirror galaxies, the gravitational magnetic field of the star itself, or the galaxy itself, in coming in touch is like a rainbow, creates a rainbow effect in the universe. You see one end of the rainbow and the other end of the rainbow. There is no difference between these vortexes and the rainbow you see, what do you call it, over the waters or in the air. But you're not underneath, you're not on the center to see. It's the shape and the field forces which join up. But this is a matter state condition interaction between the fields of the dynamic fields of the plasmas, or what do you call it, magnetic field of the
Mr. Kesh, what if you had literally millions of tiny pinholes that the GANS was being squirted through that would create the whirling effect? Essentially, you'd have millions of tiny whirling rings of GANs. Could that not be effective?
In a way, yes, this is what you do in the structure which Arman showed you. You see, you got
putting it under pressure.
Plasmatic pressure.
Plasmatic yes. Pressure, though.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, plasmatic different and a matter pressure. Mm-hmm. There is something interesting in the last video. The guy showed you the bubbles on the pan. What you were just showing. Those of you who look for a non-stick pans, this is how you make a non-stick, permanent non-stick pans. If you, what the guy was showing, dropping the water on it, if you heat up the pan to a very high temperature and you pour water very slowly on it, not to cool it, but drops of water very rapidly, the bubbles jump off on the pan. This jumping to you is just very little, but it's like literally hammering the steel, which is nano layer soft. So what you do, the temperature is exactly how you nano coat your plates. The temperature allows the metal to loosen up enough, and then the water, because it's much heavier by mass than the soft nano layer, it hammers the nano layer back into the plate. In fact, you make one of the best nano-coated Teflon materials for cooking. You'll never find out anything sticking to the plate. Because now the water becomes the hammer, and the heat has released the atomic structure of the metal in a nano layer condition. So you hammer nano layer back into itself, and then as we know, with nano layers, we've seen you cannot weld them together. So whatever you cook can never stick to it. And when the plate loses its what they call non-stick property, you can repeat the same. You don't need to pay hundreds of dollars for the top perfect Teflon, and then when you scrape it with a what do you call it, metal scraper, it goes and you throw the pan away. This process, which you just happened to show in that movie with the guy showing the water jumping on the plate, is one of the best ways to make a non-stick pan at home. And then it's a nano layer of the pan you create. Now you understand the process, you've seen it. There we use the caustic. In the other process, we use the electric current flow to release it. Now with a high temperature, very high temperature, you release just the top, loosen the top layer which just about to want to nano size. And then this drop of water becomes like hammers it back in. And if you remember in our teachings regarding that if you rub a nano layers, then you, what do you call it? Then you make it like a diamond structure shiny. This is what this drop does. I see it says, but now you eat the nano layers. Yes, this is what happened to us for centuries. Women, we've had non-stick pans for centuries. People who knew how to do it. If you pour water suddenly in the pan, then you cool it. That doesn't have that effect. When you add water in drops, and it used to happen with the cooking, we've had nanotechnology with us for thousands of years. One of the best nano layers created was by the Romans. When I was explaining this to the knowledge seekers, I don't know if you know, you are familiar with the term pothole in English, where the cooking pots came in the English language, and most of these were then became non-stick pans. Is the Romans, when they had the chariots, the roads had to be clear because they had the wheels. And the wheels had, if they would have hit too many holes, they used to break open. Even they had a metal ring around them to reinforce the circle of the wheel. They used to put metal plates over the hill that were all over the holes. That was the best solution they could find. So after a while, the hole was there and the metal wasn't strong enough, so it took the shape of the hole. And then the English people used to pinch these plates because it was a very nice cooking pan. They could cut the corners, and they had a pot, and that's where the terminology cooking pot comes from, pothole. And most of these potholes, because they used to be on high temperature summertime on the road, and with sudden drops of rain, they used to be nano coated naturally. So is the nano coating and Teflon is not something new. But it's the same process. You can do the same thing at home. Put your pan by a cooking pan, a steel pan, and spend 10 to 15 minutes, have the patience to do the job properly. You have a perfect nano-coated pan. These are natural nanomaterials, not the way we see. There is a difference, huge difference, between the nanomaterial which you buy in the market today and the nanomaterials which you create through the Keshe Foundation technology. The nanomaterials you buy in the market is what is produced, what we call with a popcorn effect. And they are literally not really nanomaterials. The way you make nanomaterials through the caustic and the electronic system with the low voltage in salt is the structure of the same matter. You have always scraped the pan and ate some of the copper or aluminum or whatever the pot was made of. But with heating it and nano coating it, you have made it tougher by hammering it in. In one of the tests we did with the University of Ghent years ago, they wanted to use the nanomaterial for brake system for the 200 kilogram cars. When they started testing the material, they said this has more resistance than our material, and it's supposed to be smoother. I explained to them, the nano coating has a gaps and a matter, so it becomes like a new brake system, where you have holes in your disc that speeds up the speed of the brake. You can brake faster. And when we literally rubbed the nanomaterials, we crushed it, the way it becomes like a diamond surface shiny, the performance was totally different. It was what was expected. When you produce non-stick pans this way, the hammering of the water of the nano layer is so strong. If you use a bigger, what do you call it, amount of the large amount of water, but not too big, that you create a shiny pan. And every now and then you just heat it up and you produce it. The Chinese understand this technology very well. They use it in the woks. Because in the Chinese food production, you use a wok, which is already curvature, high temperature, and little amount of water, you see the sizzling. That's what it does. Every time the pan becomes waterproof, itself becomes nano-coated.
Does not the oil work into that as well and
It's the
form a
same.
carbon nano coating?
The same.
Mm-hmm. I happened to have that happen the other day with, I burned some oil in a pan accidentally and made a bunch of smoke. But boy, did it create a nice solid coating on both the pan and a fork that was in the pan. The fork that was a stainless fork got a brown black coating that I couldn't scrub off. It's virtually impossible to get off. It was at such a high temperature.
It's you have nano-coated your fork.
Yes, I have a
That's
nano-coated
why.
fork, and I'm not sure what to do with it.
No, you use it. It's actually, you find out if you use it for,
it
test it with oil and other material.
it
You
could be
find
an
out even eating with it is much
antibacterial,
easier.
right?
Pardon?
It could be an antibacterial coating that could be protective, or it might have
More or
other
less.
special properties. Maybe
More or
that's
less.
maybe that's
Elio,
the cutlery of the future will be all nano coated, so it'll help the food digest or something. To give it extra
Taste.
prepared. Yeah, that's right. The nanoparticles are known for carrying taste, so maybe there's a way to impart more taste to the food through the cutlery. Oh, there's
Would you
a
like
there's a
a
big one.
strawberry flavored spoon?
Yeah,
well, Dr.
well,
Elliott originally showed this video to kind of represent what happens at the atom level when you nanocoat something. She was, I think you may have touched on it, that she wanted to make sure to reiterate that the same thing happens when you nanocoat as the water dancing around. Um, that's what happens when you apply the voltage to the nano coating, so people can actually get a visual of what they're trying to accomplish. And if there's breaks in it, if the pan wasn't evenly hot, it wouldn't bounce in that area. So you'd have to make sure and evenly nano coat your materials to get this same kind of effect. And so now it brings it up to a life-size view, I think is what she was trying to convey as well.
so speaking of nanomaterials,
Madame
maybe
Sarat.
pardon me?
Sorry, just we got distracted. Our chickens start dancing in front of the lab. So we got distracted. There are ladies in the house. Sorry about that. Carry on.
I
We
thought we
live in an
could.
open environment. We have everything: dog, cat, chickens. Put it this way: the experiment which Dr. Elio showed me, the two eggs came from our chicken laboratory with the chickens in the back. So
That's
part of the
why.
teaching program. Okay, carry on. Sorry about that.
Well, I thought we can move into showing some of Brett's pictures here that he wanted to talk about. So, Brett, are you there? Would you like to describe a bit about what we have here?
Yeah, I'm here. I had a container that I made some copper wires with from the beginning when we first learned, and I used the chicken wire zinc mesh, and I left it in the caustic and the potassium hydroxide solution also with PET plastic, and sealed it and left it in there for almost a year. And now it's growing all these weird structures and materials, and even some hair things you can see that look like hair structures all over the place. Even the plastic is growing material on it.
I had a question about that, Brett.
Yeah.
That hair-looking material, have you tried to take it out and like physically touch it and see what it feels like?
No, I have not, but I knocked them off a couple times moving it and looking at it, and then new ones grow back.
The same style or position or different position?
No, they change a little bit of position, and the other ones I knocked off just follow the bottom of the container.
Is the mustache of the system.
That's what I said. I told Armin, I'm waiting for something to crawl out of there.
He's growing his mustache. You keep on shaving it and it grows.
Throw a
Maybe you have found the secret to grow off mustache and hair.
throw a
Better
comb.
explore this.
Throw a comb in and see what happens. See if arms grow.
Well, Armin suggested I put in some sugar into it.
Yeah, because we're experimenting.
Sugar, a little alcohol. That'll be it.
We're going to show you something very interesting. Just wait. Oh, now the cat goes. I told you this is a live animal zoo here. You get the cat, the dog, the chicken. Can we show this here, Armin? We're going to show you about this adding the sugar to you now. This is an experiment which Armin is just actually controlling, setting it up. I try to put the camera on that you can see. Let me move the paper, please. Armin, this is to do with, yeah, this is addition to Brad's work. That's why we're showing it. I think you will see it. It shows something to add to the knowledge, which is just addition to the knowledge exactly. Armin is working exactly what Brad said and mentioned Armin's name, so we show what Armin is up to in the background. That's why you hear a lot of noises here. Things don't stop just because we are here. Armin, would you like to come and explain this? This has been brought in with him. Is Armin. Okay. What happened? Let me explain why you have different colors, materials, and whatever you see there. In the box which you have sealed, we have the same kind of what I call live animal. Yeah, it's rotating. Bravo! Now we have new animals created. The brownish reddish color is your CH. It's a sugar-based material which continues life, creates sustainable energy production for your machine inside, for your system. The other bits are all very much is like corals. You have established one point of life in one wire or one part of your mesh. Because of the presence of nanomaterial and the rest, now around where the energy conversion is easy, which is a CH3, you see expansion and growth and life. That's why you have these weird and wonderful colors. These colors are usually in a brown reddish spectrum. Not red as a blood red, but brownish red, copperish, and what you show, these are mainly hydrogen-based connections from the water. And one of the reasons you see even the plastic is getting things growing on it, because plastic is a CH bond. You have created some sort of initial proton, and with the bond of the hydrogen in the plastic, you have given it the energy source, or what you say, feeding. We've seen this, I show it to you, we've done this 6-7 years ago. I have a number of things like this, which we left it to grow, and it's an animal, and now it still lives. While Armin is showing you this, I show you, yeah, exactly what you show in your video now, on the live stream. What has happened in the condition of the protons, nitrogen and oxygen in the water, in the environment of your plastic, they have sunk down and attached themselves, or your hand has been greasy, so you already put the base of the protein inside with the fat of your body, and now they found the energy source through the hydrogen of the plastic. And the brownish is the CH bond, the sugar, the essential sugar for creation of life. And that's what you have this. We can explain this fully. I'm going to bring the things out. You will see we've done this years ago. That's why I can explain to you in a easy way. I give the headphone to Armand, explains to you what you're looking at, and it's the extension to what you show. One second. Your gate is wrong. Would like to speak.
Yeah, it's gonna end. It's not tighted. It's just a. Yes, it's not properly actually connected. I just forgot to tighten up the pipe, so it fell in it. So what I'm doing, the pipe is nano-coated, and we have a CO2 box, which is a lot of CO2 under it. So on the top layer, we have amino acid, which we are mixing with the CO2 gas. I think it's going to take a time until it all mixes properly. Nano-coated pipe is copper, and we have a zinc and nano-coated copper plate on a left side. So all we're doing, trying to mix amino acid with CO2. And then we'll decide what kind of material we're going to add, iron or magnesium. If we add iron, we can create blood, meaning animal life. If we add magnesium, we're going to create plant life. Any questions?
Don't you mean magnesium for fish or no?
What is it?
I thought the magnesium was for fish.
No.
Well, fish would
Green
still be an
fish?
animal.
You want to grow fish?
It's the chlorophyll what do you call it? Molecule has magnesium in the middle, whereas hemoglobin in the blood is the exact same molecule but has iron in the middle instead of magnesium. I think that's the way it goes.
Sorry, guys.
We're just trying to fish out the mixer.
There's the glove. Thank you, Armin.
It's all outside.
Now you're fishing.
Safety first when you're fishing in Gans.
He got fished by the motor itself. You just got to pick it up.
Well,
You get fished. So what happened, we'll show this later on, but this is the more or less very early on, where the sugar. Can you hear? This is the advantage of live presentation.
Yeah.
we can hear.
Sorry,
we can hear Armin breathing pretty good, or someone breathing there.
It's me.
And we can tell he's excited.
What this Arman is doing here, we said he brought this thing with him when he came from the state in January, is the same process as we explained, that the amino acid is produced during the production of the CO2 you see at the bottom, the white. And all he's doing, according to what we explained earlier on, early in the year, he is mixing the amino acid in conjunction with CO2 to allow the process of the waves in the ocean that leads to creation of production and life. And in this bucket, he has introduced sugar as a mixture in the dilution to support, what do you call it, the energy source that once the system starts breathing, it has its own life support system, as we call it. The sugar content is the energy life support. And the motor here creates that a small rotation that allows the protein to be mixed with a CO2, and at the same time, in fact, getting fed by the sugar. One piece which is missing from this structure, the way we are used to it, is a small amount of iron. If we add a small amount of iron in the bucket, we will see the change of color into red, which is the original color of partially red, partially brown, and this is the creation of blood. And in a way, if you add copper to it, it becomes the color of the muscle of the man. When you eat meat, flesh, is a combination of magnesium, copper, and iron, which is fed into it by the blood. Then you see creation of life. In what you just shown, with Brad, with the picture you just shown, I try to show you something else, if I can get on the camera. Are we on the camera, or is there a delay in our camera? We go here. Okay, you can see that. This is what you've done, or what you showed us earlier on. You see, it's about the same color as what you showed. This is a specific structure of life which was set up maybe 6-7 years ago. It's alive, it's a new type of creatures or life entity, but I have a difference that at the top I can decide the voltage current into the system. And both of the wires are nano-coated. And you see what you produce in a container. It's become a solid. You actually got a physical entity. There was nothing in here, just water and the material. Now, if you can physically look very close, you see the dark matter. It has solidified. It's become like a muscle tissue. In another test, I used the same tube. You see here, this is a double tube. This is a 5 or 10 milliliter tubes. And the nanomaterials, can I get this camera down? Because it's too far from me. If you look here, just let me sort the camera out. If you look here, you see we have put in electrodes with a wire connection, where I could dictate the condition in each tube by the wires coated with nano material inside. You see the dark material, and you will see the material is still operates and links. This is about maybe 7 years old. But what I've done, I've created the condition of the nerve in one side and a condition of the blood in the other, for the material to be produced as a cell of the man. But I control the input through neurosystem, through these wires. You see, you have 2 wires from either side. So I control what is to be produced inside each tube.
Mr. Cash, can you put that on the white paper so we can see the difference in color?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Let me explain to you. You see here, it's too far, the camera. That's why I try to bring the bigger picture. Okay. So what you see here is, if you go back to the teachings of the medical side, when I explain that interaction between the nerves or neurosystem and the blood vessels dictates the production of the material. And in that case, for this to be proven to be correct, I set up this test years ago. And it shows exactly we can dictate what kind of fiber we want to produce in where. So for example, if you look at these wires, they are very, very thin. They are for very low voltage current flow. They are not for powerful. In the world of creation, you work in nanovolts and nanowatts, but you work in a plasmatic condition. If you even could look, these wires are nano-coated internally. Even though I use a plastic coating, but the wires are nano-coated inside the cover. So I've replicated the condition of life in a vacuum condition of the body of the man, where the gravitational magnetic field in the nano layers in this tube interacts with the gravitational magnetic field of the nanotube in this tube. It's like a blood and neurosystem information transfer. But I control each tube separately through its own power supply. So I decide if this is the brain, what power goes through this cell, and if this is the blood, what power goes through it. And in so many ways, when you leave it to the course of the nature, and then we have a bigger size, we can decide what kind of creatures and structures we want to produce in the environment of the salt. The people who've been to the lab have seen I have what I call the water of life. I can create life anywhere in the universe according to the structure. It's a liquid. It's a salt environment condition which carries all the salts, and it's there nearly 2, 3, 4 years now. But this is the miniature version of the human body. And what Brad shows us on the picture we see on the live stream, it's exactly what you see here. But this has gone into solid state production of the tissue and muscles.
Mr. Kesh, has that got to do with the 12 body salts that you discussed briefly before, or is that a different topic?
Good morning.
Thank you.
The little nerve, the little tiny 2 one you have, I'm assuming that you can use that for health applications for healing, correct? If you put the correct current through it.
This has different implications. This is done in a specific way. I have a number of these. I have 30, 40 of these which are built for testing man's behavior. If you understand the extent of the work of especially the units like this, you can control psychological pattern through the nerve system. And that's the prelude to the simple cups I make for nanotechnology and psychological cups. In the cases of what you call schizophrenic with different characters, it's very difficult to control, because what they do while you're helping one soul, one structure which is set like this, they switch to the next one. So this one does not receive, or they switch to the third one or the fourth one, and they create a combination field, and so you cannot help. Psychological cups for schizophrenic conditions is very, very difficult. But in a simple condition, like a normal condition, psychological, very much like, let's say, fibromyalgia, epilepsy, understanding this principle over 7, 10 years ago, and being able to produce a replication for it has allowed us to be able to develop a simple system, as this stupid guy in Belgium opened up the police and said it's just magnets. And the guy never understood what is the principle and the research behind it, because we control plasmatic condition through magnets. The understanding is very deep, but when you are ready, we explain. And you see that just you showed me your box, and in 1 second, 1 minute, I can show you what has been done years ago. If you allow a condition of growth in your cylinders, in your box, you will start seeing creation of new life, the way you're growing mustache.
But what is that hair structures? Is it hair or what is it?
It is most probably a protein which is like a mustache. It means usually when you get pieces like this, is the beginning of the structure of neurosystem. Or when the neurosystems do not want to extend, they convert the nanomaterial, as we explained through ACDC, to a solid state. Hair and these kind of things is rejection of material which it converts to matter. Nail we have, we grow, we think it's for protection, but in fact is what the body, you go to, what we show the work of the bladder and kidney, you reject part of the body what doesn't need material in that form. Hairs and all kind of these things are part of the rejection process. What is not needed, but body being efficient uses it for what it needs. Instead of letting you to reject the material as a fetus, you reject it as hair. And that's why it keeps on falling off and it grows. Our what do you call feathers or the skin are the way of process of getting rid of what body doesn't need. And this is what the world of science has never understood. Your system clearly shows it. What the system cannot use as a magrav, but it wants to get rid of it in the conversion, it becomes matter state. Everything from the body is not rejected in urine and in going to through the back passage. Part of it is used in an efficient way for protection and for recovery. Nails are kind of protection. The reason we have nails and we grow nails is to protect the tip of the fingers, that they don't continuously come in touch and get sensitive or get destroyed. And animals by instinct use it for different purposes. The skin is the same way. Our body can live without the plasma of within the plasma of its structure without the skin. But skin is part of the process of rejection, what body doesn't need in a huge amount. That's why we shed so much of it. If we were supposed to shed everything through the two systems we have, we would have been sitting on the toilet 24 hours a day. But body has found a way to use the waste in its advantage, or to its advantage. And you see it here. It's how can the water over a period of time become sugar content with solidification. This is a kind of life you see in a very simple system. There's been nothing in there but just water. And I can show you a number of these small gadgets which are built over years, and each one takes time to develop to get to this process.
So do you have any suggestions for my container?
Pardon?
Do you have any suggestions for my container?
Yeah, you make another one. Let the life carry on, learn from it. Make another one, but if you look at all these containers, even here, you see 2 electrodes. I have always given myself ability to be able to control the condition. And the only way you can control the condition is through nanolayers and through electrodes, putting current and voltage in or draining it. Can you give me your voltmeter, please? Yeah, the voltmeter, if you do it. Yes, let's see. Just can you put it on a very low voltage or amperage? Yeah, go to very millivolts. 200 millivolts. If you put it, these are all rusted from outside. We don't have. Can you hold this, please? Arman, can you hold the container? If I rub, because by rubbing you see a very slow voltage flow. This is what
Can we see the
you can see
voltmeter, perhaps?
the voltmeter. Yeah, you can put. It's not on the camera. We're just off the
Right.
screen.
There we go. There,
So
that's
you
good.
see, you work in a very slow, stable voltage. Very, very slow, very small. And this variation in the voltage allows, exactly like the stomach, to produce the current flow in the gans. Because the current flow comes when you create that voltage in the plasmatic condition. We can go backwards a bit here. So if we can hold, no, this is for this one. This and this one are hold together. As if from the same container. You see, again, very small flow. You need micro voltage, micro amp to create life.
But the
Like,
zinc that was in there, some of it's nano coated, so it's already providing some energy, right?
yes, in a way, yes. Because if you could do what we saw with a video some times ago, you will see there is a magnetic field flow in your container. And that field flow literally is like an ocean, brings new, fresh material to the system. The understanding is not just seeing something, is translating the information. If you see things and you cannot translate the information, what the experiment you've done is useless. With your knowledge you have to start translating the information. What does it mean? How it's come to be? What can create, and then when you become good at it, you can predict what is going to be, because it means you understood the process. If your prediction comes to reality, it means you understood the process. And when you put a picture like this on the live stream, and you say what this is, or can you explain this, it means you haven't started analyzing your own knowledge and your own understanding. This is a point of maturity.
Okay, I'll get some more containers and try some experiments.
Yes, yeah, but try to explain to us the way Mike is doing. Mike is doing a wonderful job, but at the same time, the process has to be understood in a correct way. Otherwise, we make all the mistakes and assumptions of the scientists in the past. And then you build the science on the wrong assumption. Just because the formula adds does not mean it's correct. We go back to the same stupid situation that M is equal, what do you call it? Energy is equal a mass double speed of light. The assumptions were made to get to this point by Einstein was to suit himself, and has put the humanity in the wrong way of thinking. As scientists who you are becoming in a new direction, your foundation of the knowledge has to be correct, because if you make a mistake, the structure will go wrong. In the long run, people then learn the wrong way. There is no room for mistake. There is a room for mistake to understand from, but being flexible enough to allow it to be corrected. That's why when Mike, I have a lot of respect for the job he's doing, when he made the assumption that the electron is the center mass, scientifically we don't see it. Unless it can be proven, we can make all sorts of formulas to prove it's correct. But in reality, it doesn't support it. Because as a nuclear physicist, as a plasma technology development structure, we see the reality and we understand the process. And understanding the process allows us to be correct, and we cannot make mistakes, especially at this fundamental point, foundation of the technology. All of us, we add to the knowledge, but we have to be open enough to accept criticism, and we have to be open enough to add to the knowledge and explain the knowledge from now on. All of you are coming up with beautiful explanations, beautiful tests. But from now on, you have to be able to predict, write down. It's not harm done. Oh, good morning, pussycat. Now we've got another animal looking at us in the fish tank. We are in the fish tank and they're outside looking at us because they're in freedom, we are in the room. So what do you do when you do the test? Before you do the test, write your prediction. I think these things might happen. Put it in the envelope and put it away. And when you finish the test, open up and see how far close to reality you are. Not, oh, I thought that way and it came this. Then you're straight honest with yourself.
Okay,
Then
will
you can
do.
do things with us. Write what you predict. We predict this is what's going to happen, and this is this process of life, and this is the process of the nature. You create condition, and let me explain to you, there is no difference between you and a designer of engine for Rolls-Royce or Mercedes. They imagine a motor which can do such a performance, and they set out to manufacture the motor to give the performance. You do the same thing. You want to achieve, this is what I want to achieve. Now you set up to produce a system to achieve that target. And if you achieve that target, or you achieve it but you don't understand it, you go back in what you planned to begin with and what you achieved. The reality with the intellect, with the correctness of the knowledge. Then we add to each other's knowledge. That's why even in the advertising made for the university, we call it the open sourcing. And we respect everyone's knowledge. But at the same time, I'm not right all the time, 100%. I stand criticism. The same has to be with everybody else. If I cannot explain the position I discuss, so I have to wait till the point I can explain it. Otherwise, at that point, I have to keep silent because I cannot explain what I think. Unless I can prove it with a test and it's there, that I can show why I'm doing it. You look at the process of the plastic. You see most of the life is attached, most of these brown things are attached around your plastic. What is plastic? It's a CH bond. The CH bond, be it a polymer or whatever, means energy availability. And where there is an energy available that other materials can absorb from, you see clusters, you see life, and you see expansion.
Actually, when I was looking at the container, I was imagining a coral reef, but down where more like hydrogen vents are, because of the
It's
hydrogen
all
release.
sorts of things. I think if you look at your structure, and if you can go back to the time where you're putting the structure in this liquid, remember where you touched. Which part of the wire you touched? Most probably where you left your fingerprint. Fingerprint is an amino acid trace. You have left the basis of life on the wire through your fingerprint. And now the life is growing. This is a copy of you. It's a mutation of your protein in so many ways. And then when you have a dark spot, you have to think what was in your mind when you set it up. You understand?
How many kids do you want to
Yeah.
have, Brett?
This is grow my own aliens.
Yeah.
Oh, I can see it now. The Kesh grow your own alien kit, you know.
We are not far from it.
Yeah.
You want to see? You want to
Well,
see one? Just
there's
wait. Just wait. Talk among yourself. I'll show you something else.
there's actually children now that create new life forms. That's what one of the hobbies are for science fairs and that kind of thing, where you can actually, it's actually possible to create a new life form that hasn't been around before by arranging DNA in a certain structure and so on, certain sequences.
Yeah, you can have a different color of your kids, black, white, Yeah, velo.
Rainbow. Rainbow. But you know, of all the flavors of ice cream,
Yeah?
of all the
You can
flavors
have a
of
child of, is it?
of all the flavors of ice cream, which is the most popular? Plain vanilla for some reason.
Ah, yeah. You know, in Italy, you cannot buy vanilla ice cream only in summertime when the tourists are here, because Italians don't eat vanilla, what do you call it, ice cream?
Oh,
Whenever we ask for vanilla, it's only available summertime when the tourists come.
yeah, I think it's an
Uh,
American rule.
okay, what I'm showing you here, you can see very much like what Brad showed us before. In this jar here, these jars are over 4 years old now. I have created a condition inside each cup to replicate life in different planets or solar system around the universe. This structure, you see, is growing on its own. Okay, because I replaced the phone, I can't get coming back. And then there is here, you can read, is in Farsi, which says, Maye Zendagi means water of life, the essence of creation. And in this, you see the essence of creation of man. It's red in color. Inside, it has created itself and is the sugar beginning of the life. This is nearly 4 years old. What I've done, inside these containers, I don't touch them, I don't move them, because then I change the environment. Inside these containers, in between the layers, I have established here between these layers, I have established the condition of part of the universe as I know. So the animal or the creature I get in the cup, as you see it, if I can show it to you this way, gives you the existence of life, where to expect when we achieve, when we arrive in this point in the universe. This is very simple. So I do not create a condition in the water. I create a condition in the environment, in the wall of the system here. And I allow, if you look, this one is black, if you can see deep enough, with a white growing. There was nothing in here. I have created a condition where this environment, as you see, like a salt, being created around it. 3 are open, which means I leave the dictation of the environment dictate what life is going to be. If I expand this, for example here, then you get a different kind of life. I create the environment of life, let's say on planet Zeus. Here I create a life in the universe Z. But I dictate the condition of environment within the structure of these walls. And then we replicate the same thing in the health section. We replicate the structure of the lung or liver in the same cups. So when you drink the water, you drink the water of the perfect liver condition according to your blood. And then the body learns what is forgotten and reprocesses. And totally, when you look at it, I put it in a 4 dimension, if it can be seen, because I see it. There are 4 reactors. It's a balanced transition. It's what Mike showed as 4 loops. But if you look, each loop is connected to the other. It's very much the structure of, I cannot get the picture correctly. It's the structure of the helium. Yeah, that's perfect. You have 2 protons and 2 neutrons. And all connected to each directly. It's infinity locked to infinity. So there are no energy losses. It's a stable condition irrespective of the environment I made around it. Then in a practical way, when it comes to, let's say, Alzheimer's, we replicate the same condition of the brain structure in this process. With Armand, we are running a test now with a girl of, how old is she? 9? 7 years. And we have seen the change, the parents have seen the change, what, in 4 weeks, 6 weeks? Just understanding this structure, you change the life of a child forever. Where she would have been a handicap, mentally, what do you call it, backwards or slightly compared to her peers, now she lives a normal life. She's equal to the others. You bring respect and life to a person. And as simple as that, creating this condition, you change the life of a man. And in so many ways, all this knowledge is in addition to the knowledge of what you create in the plasma technology. If you look at it, this is in so many ways a neurosystem. This is a blood system of, let's say, the right side. This is the neurosystem and blood system of the left side of the body. And whatever is created in the center, according to the level where it is in there, is a liver, is a kidney, or whatever. Then you dictate the production of materials and life. And even when you go further, we can teach you how you control the emotion of the life too. And all this comes from a simple understanding of the creation of life in this little tube. And there are a number of these here that are hanging around because I built these over years. When I learned, understood, it's been kept. It's okay. Thanks. We can close this. Any questions?
No, I'm good. Thank you.
Try to, can you put this back in the lab and put this list seated because it can't stay. It sits on the fireplace here with a red top on it. Yes, please. So you understand how you have to start expanding on the knowledge, not copying the technology anymore. Instead of showing, this is what I like about the way Mike is working. He expands on the knowledge, even to his understanding, and most of the time he can explain it. He's got to explain to us how he assumes that the proton is the center mass. Maybe it's correct. Maybe we have to learn something and add to the knowledge of man. But we have to do it correctly.
Okay, I do believe that Lucian had a question here.
Thank you.
Oh,
Exactly
God.
what I was going to
It's back
say.
again. Where was he hiding
Yeah.
for a few weeks?
Yeah, you thought you could get away with
I think
it.
it was under
I
rock.
have seen I have seen this criticism and negativities on the different chat rooms. So I would like to know what his team has done for CIA. What's the new question? Good morning, Lucian. You better speak a bit louder.
Good morning. Is it better now?
Hello, we can't hear you.
No, you need to turn up your mic.
He's in.
No, how is now?
It's just very low. It just seems very
It's
low.
very low. We can't hear you. Ask your guys to open the channel a bit more.
Better now? Okay, let's see how it's now.
Okay, that's better.
Okay. Yes, so good morning, Mr. Cash. I wanted to
morning.
go back 3 hours ago when you described what Arman did, because you made a very important statement which was so fast. But how to say, the guys didn't understand it and they still don't understand. this concept.
Maybe I didn't understand it as well, but explain.
No, you do. Okay, so when you described Arman's device, you stated that inside there is a copper coil, and it's a very low current, which will allow to create copper oxide gas, atomic hydrogen, and this is happening because of the magnetical field of the sodium. But remember, when you do fill that recipient, the sodium chlorine, I mean the salt, the kitchen salt, is having like a covalent bond. So the most of the sodium field is, if any, is connected with the chlorine. So in the starting point, when you just
No. I stop you there. I stop you there before you go any further. You are correct. You are correct. If you work in a matter state environment. Don't forget, the tube is nano-coated, total is magnetic. The winding is nano-coated. The wire in the center is nano-coated. Is very much is the structure of the stomach we explained. The covalent bond does not come into operation. The chlor and sodium behave as a GaNs magnetic entity. Because you are correct.
Right, but
You
let
see
me
this?
just go to the beginning. When the copper tube, I mean the device is filled, right, with water.
No, we have
Whatever
only
gas-
1 or 2 drops of water in it. It's very little amount of water.
Right. So you put probably CO2 gas or copper oxide gas and salt.
No, it's only copper oxide. I'm correct, Harman. It's only copper oxide.
Okay, copper oxide, couple of drops of water, and couple of, some salt. So after
Yes.
that, the device is closed, is sealed.
Yes. Yes.
So in this point, strictly the water per se and the sodium chloride, the salt, is material matter when you drop them inside. Supposingly,
Can
in
you
the first
repeat
stage,
what you said? Can you
So
repeat?
in the first stage, when the water is inserted and the table salt, they are in the matter state, material.
Yes. Yes.
At least the beginning of the process,
Experiment.
and after that, right, experiment. So after that, the recipient is sealed. So supposedly we still don't apply any current on that coil, as Arman explained to us. It has no reason to transform itself into a plasmatic or in the gas of natrium chloride.
No, it has.
Stage one.
No, it has. Automatically has. Because, but no. Let's expand on the knowledge. The minute you have inserted the 3 elements inside, even when it was empty, you have created a plasmatic magnetic gravitational environment in that tube. The instant you introduce the salt water, which is a few drops of it, everything behaves as you have seen in the core with the water, plasmatic condition, even though they were in the matter, because now they're in a plasmatic. The reason for it is very simple. Your nanolayers on both sides of the center electrode and the coil and the wall of the tube create a magnetic plasmatic environment. And your matter is made of plasmatic magnetic environment of the different strength, so it'll be affected immediately. The instant any matter enters this tube, the behavior of the matter changes into a GaNs and a plasma, what do you call it, a nanostructure. Instantly. This is what happens in your stomach.
That the sodium chloride is instantly becoming a gas of sodium chloride.
Behaves, doesn't become, behaves.
Okay, behaves, okay.
The behavior is magnetic gravitational field of chlor and sodium. You've seen it in the transparent cores, where you have the water, your GaNs spreads to the wall to a certain length, and then the center opens up because the field plasma of the GaNs collected in the center even pushes the matter aside, because now the matter in reality should be in the center, but it goes to the beyond the boundary of the plasma. In the condition of magnetic gravitational field tubes, like the stomach, like the device Arman has made, because it's protected. That's why if you go back to the health teachings, I keep on referring the stomach, and from the second the food enters the back of your throat, which is now sealed magnetic tube, nano-layered, the behavior of the material changes. The behavior of the material is plasmatic, not matter. That's why you can create nano layers of it in the stomach and then the GaNs of. The instant the material enters the tube, the behavior, because it's a magnetic, it opens up to magnetic field flow, not to the environmental gravitational field. Because now it's encapsulated in that field, in that environment. You don't see the behavior of chlor, you don't see behavior of sodium. As a chemical interaction. Carry on.
Right, but that means that somehow the, the the field of sodium is separating from the field of chlorine, of chlor, somehow.
Yes, yeah,
Like
it's not somehow,
I,
it's done in the body. It's done in the body of the man. They behave like a GaNs.
yes, but can I ask you something really quick? Let's focus on the Arman's device, because this is our goal. People will not understand what you just did or explained today without clarifying this issue. So now the sodium is somehow separating its field, let's say, so, or it's manifesting.
Can you repeat? We can't hear you clearly. Can you go back and repeat? Because
yes, so what I'm trying to say is, based on what you said, the magnetical field of sodium somehow manifests itself in that strength, and the magnetical field of chlorine is manifesting himself as strength. So if this is correct, if I understand it correctly, somehow creates some sort of dipole of two.
Some sort of what?
Dipole. So there are two fields that are keeping their distance in the element chlorine and sodium strength, if I'm correct in the thinking.
But so, you have to go further. Let's add to your knowledge. You're correct up to now. But you have to go a step further. Not necessarily the two will stick together as they do in a chemical bond.
I understand. They may separate.
They don't separate. Their magnetic gravitational fields can connect with another entity, like this copper oxide. We've seen this in the test.
Now when
we've seen this manifestation of magnetic field of the entity in Raman spectroscopy, and when we put it to the chemical test, it's not the matter it shows as in Raman spectroscopy, because the field connection. If you understand this difference, then it makes it much easier to see the process. Carry on.
Right, so now I will go to the second step. When Arman is putting some 1 microamps or whatever current through the coil, technically it will get 1 atom of copper out, let's say, an entity will will couple with the oxygen into the water, as we explained. We'll get the copper oxide, which is okay. So at that point, you suggested that the magnetic field of sodium will prevent aggregation of these entities and will keep the atomic hydrogen there. So technically, you are suggesting that the field of sodium is creating this parameter to enable to obtain entities, gas entities in atomic state. This is correct, what I'm understanding.
In so many ways, yes.
Okay. I wanted to make this, how to say, these clarifications, because you went so fast on that one, and that would create confusions. So now, once you create atomic structures, being copper, as you explained, or
You
being
take, let's add to the knowledge. We create atomic plasmatic structure of the hydrogen, not a matter hydrogen.
right, correct.
Okay.
Right. So that means at this point, the sodium magnetic field will separate somehow these, let's say, plasmatic or gas entities and not allow them to, how they're calling, to come back together and form bigger clusters or something like that. So keeping them in this form, as we explained, will enable the plasmatic entities to exist and not to how to say, to reverse back. Or how they're saying the mainstream
position. Yeah, the thing
is
is,
like,
the position is you're
okay, go ahead.
speaking about you're speaking about two different states of matter. One is in a plasmatic condition and one is in matter condition. And you're trying to transfer the knowledge of your understanding in the matter to understand the behavior of the plasmatic, and they don't work. It's very much you're trying to explain the behavior of a gas as with the ice. A vapor with ice. You don't see the behavior of the ice in a vapor. But you say it's the same origin. A plasma condition is a free. The sodium in this structure is plasmatic magnetic field entity. So it's actually become a connection for a faster transfer than in chemical binding becomes a block. This is the difference. Sodium in this condition, because now you're in a gas state, in a plasmatic condition state, it becomes a superconductor for transfer of the information and energy. Not atomic sodium, which becomes an insulation or the blockage to the flow. Because it's not the electron vibration, it's a magnetic gravitational field connection in a plasmatic condition. In a plasma condition, in the gas state condition, you cannot create blockage. You can create diversion or a speed of transfer. The smaller you become, the more you go towards the hydrogen, the faster the speed of the transfer is. It's a fundamental new, it's not a new, it's understanding the difference between the behavior of a solid and the behavior of a gas. The binding is free, but is instantaneous. Sodium or chlor, even though they stay in the plasmatic or they behave, now they become superconductors at the room temperature. They don't become a blockage in the transfer of the plasma or magnetic gravitational plasma of the gas of the CO2 or copper oxide. Carry on.
Yes, that was the question. Thank you for the clarification. Now people probably could have good results, because now I think that is understood the concept.
Thank you very much
This is
indeed.
all for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for your enlightenment.
Oh no, I will say I am trying to translate your language into the technical people understanding, so they can
We
achieve some.
always,
No,
Lucian, we always need translators. We don't speak a language that everybody understands.
Mr.
Thank you very
Cash,
Yeah.
what do you think of the idea of Lucien being a teacher at the university?
He can join as a master, and then why not?
There you go,
We
Lucien.
need, Lucian, you can enroll when we put it up next week. I'll accept you, no problem.
well, I was telling.
I mean, if your wife allows you to leave such a good job you have.
I was telling to Rick, I will not be good because the people will not pass my exams if they don't learn.
We always need alert people.
Interesting.
Yeah, sure, we can discuss it, of course.
No
Sure.
problem. We put the form up. If you like, you can sign in. Barry is a beautiful place. But when you come, bring a few fan air condition with it's very hot.
Okay, I mean, we can see what we can do about that. The question
No
will be, I don't know how much time. Yeah, probably we'll discuss it at a later time.
I think
Okay,
your
thank you,
masters
Lucian.
can.
Just
I
wanted
think
to
your
put the
masters
bug in
can.
there.
Let me say, I think your masters can afford letting you go to learn more for them. No problem.
Okay.
Any other questions?
We're up to 3 hours 47 minutes right now. We do have
We have
another
one more person.
one more person would like to ask something here, if that'd be okay.
Yep, no problem.
And I think is Ivan.
Go ahead, Ivan.
Okay.
Hello guys. So actually, I wanted to ask about a system that is not mine, but Alex is at work, so he cannot ask. What he create is actually what is interesting is the guns that he create. That he say that his guns are creating another guns free of sort environment. So
Producing another GANs, what?
he take the guns out of the system that he make. He clean
Yeah.
it with he clean the guns out of the salt.
Yeah.
He put it in the jar that's on the left, and he's saying that on regular basis he can collect other guns from the top of the water of the jar. So the left jar is where his basic guns that he put out of the system, and he say it's clean, it's demineralized water. And in the jar in the right is the guns that he collect that are coming on the top of the water on the this jar in the left. And actually, it's very interesting what he did to produce these guns. If you can put the other picture, I will try to explain what he explained to me. Rick, the other picture, please.
You're going to become fat with this.
Should be on there now.
Okay. So basically, from what I understand, one of the sides is zinc and nanocopper electrode, and to the other side is nano-coated orange peel and some nano-coated wire and some hems. This out of the three, and he powered this system with another system that he make out of guns, of CO2 guns, that is 3 volt, like 3 volt producing cells of CO2. So actually he's adding plasmatic current to this system, and the green guns that are coming out of this system, he washed with the with this water that we use to wash the guns. And then when they go down, when they settle to the bottom, on the top of the water of the jar is producing another gas that he's able to collect from the other jar. At least this is what Alex say.
So when it's collected in the other jar, it goes down to the bottom, though. We see it at the bottom of the other jar, right? So how does it do that? Let's see if I can get this straight.
It is interesting because he says no salt in these jars. He says it's washed. And okay, even if it's washed, it's a little bit of salt, but I don't know if it's enough to create so much gas. As you see that he collected in the right jar.
So did you say that the GANS was collected from the top of the water of the left jar and then put in the right jar? Okay.
Yes, this is what Alex said.
Right.
And it's a green gas actually on the bottom in the left jar, and it is a green gas what is attracted to the top that he transformed to the right. He says green, and the picture is seen orange, but he says it's a green one. And he sent me the picture before yesterday, so
ask him to ask him to let this to sit down for or be in the jar for a little bit longer and see if it carries on producing the material on top. And at the same time, what I saw in the box on the top, which is floating, is any of that material come to be in this container? The jars.
I don't know. He said that he take the gas, he wash it, then he put it in the separate jar.
Yes, he took the GANS. But did he take the foam on the top as well or not?
Wait, I'm asking him right now. He's writing in Facebook.
Yes, Mr. Case, I would like to elaborate on this a little bit, if I may. You made a theory about, I don't know, 3 workshops ago, in which you said that if you take some gases from its environment and you put it in other environment, it will continue to produce gases and material. So I'm doing this, so the colored, what you suggested to be residues and stuff like that, which are in a distinct cup, it's collecting CO2 gas and some other materials continuously. So basically, I will come with some pictures. I'm continuing collecting that and it's still producing and producing. So apparently your theory is correct. Once a certain condition is created, and referring to today's lecture on Arman's device, that material is continuously attracted from the atmosphere or from the residual magnetic fields into the place in which the containers are stored.
The reason is because something which is the bad habit of man is the belief in, you believe in what you see. And this is the biggest problem for humanity. We only believe and trust in what we see. But one of the most important things we don't see, because whatever conditions we accepted in the process of gaining knowledge, is the air we breathe, the environment we live in, is full of materials. Be it from copper to zinc to gold to oxygen to hydrogen and the rest of it. When you take a material, a gas, which is a magnetic field environment condition, into another environment, is not like a matter state that stays, it cannot absorb. Due to the condition, environmental condition, magnetic field, it will change its gravitational magnetic field even layer by layer, millimeter by millimeter. So you create the environment of the spectrum of the materials in the air which was created from. What you see you collect as extra materials with a GANs with no salt is now you have created a gravitational magnetic field which is dynamic. And this dynamic condition can create, because it's made of the materials of this planet, environmental gravitational magnetic field which can absorb the matters in the air from the environment. So you collect a few copper dust belt crossing, or gases of copper, or zinc, or lead which comes from exhaust of the car, and then you say you produce materials from nowhere. All you've done with the transition and transfer of the GANs from one environment of the salt to another, now you have created a permanent dynamic gravitational magnetic field of copper. So in layers and in different positions in that jar, you can create multiple effect or sub-effect of the gravitational magnetic field of the copper. And in this atmosphere, in this environment, there is everything floating. So what you're doing, you're extracting materials from the space of the lab, and you convert it into matter state through the GANS process of the cup. Now you don't need the sodium or potassium or salt. Now the environmental condition of the GANs creates the condition. This is very much like the one I showed you in a few minutes ago, with a small orange container.
That is correct.
By closing the container,
I do not
I
use
have
what?
fixed this. Pardon? Can you repeat?
You are correct. I do not use salt water. I'm using regular water,
Yes,
not salt.
because nothing, you don't even need. If you dry the GANs, you won't get the effect of collection. But if you keep the GANs in a liquid state with water, you create the gap between the ganses, which the water is in between, is the environment for gravitational magnetic field of different strength. You have to go a step back. I'm going to put the camera on, then I'll explain to you, understand. Maybe I can clarify it this way. Where are the things? If you remember, we went back to the understanding of nanotechnology. We said in the nano layers, the materials were, let me fix this camera that you can see as easy. This was the nanomaterial sitting as a nano layer. And that was the next layer. The difference you have now, before you had, for example, the copper plate here, and the nanocopper atoms separated to the nanomaterial. And then you separate to the GANs. Now, when you take the GANs out, in fact, the only thing you've done now, you've taken this matter away. But the spacing between the GANs, between the nanomaterials, still stays. So the gravitational magnetic fields which you create in this space here can be of, let's say, zinc. Here in this space, because it's not linear, there are some other nano ganses around it. Now the fields here in the center, it could be of, let's say, lead, which was in the fuel. So at the same time, you are collecting materials through this. The only thing you have lost now is that solid state copper plate. But the effect of the GANs, magnetic field pointing, has not changed. And this is what you have not understood, and to you is I close the cap, or I take the GANs material out, and then I see new materials. The only thing is, as it goes back again to not deep understanding of the process. The only thing you've done, you remove the copper. But If you remember, we said in our teachings, when you put a salt, chlor, sodium, potassium, water, or whatever, you create an environment with the two plates, which the gravitational magnetic field of the environment in that position in the container is of CO2. So you extract CO2. In the open space, now you're taking the plates away and you only have GANs, and you open it to the environment and you increase the water. The gap which the water creates between the ganses, now this gap has a power of the gravitational magnetic field of 4 plasmas plus the ones around it. So this field here now has the capacity of the extracting copper, where this one extracts zinc from the air. If you keep your containers in a sealed condition, you find out very soon you can't produce any more CO2, because CO2 cannot come anywhere except the container bond of the box. As boxes deteriorate, you can collect. You collect a lot of CO2 when you have an environment, if it's at nighttime or a daytime, when there is so much CO2 available, you can decide with the behavior. So your misunderstanding is that you have not understood the full power of what technology which you have in your hand. All you've done, you remove the solid state matter, now you're creating with a dynamic condition. Each one of the ganses of the copper oxide in that container, or CO2, in respect to the other plasmas around them, create different condition, magnetic gravitational field, the strength of other materials, which if they are in the environment will be extracted and be added to the water, and then you see that new materials appear. These materials are now due to the dynamic plasma which you have created in the, in the GANs without the state of matter. This is now you entering the world of creation. We don't see a copper plate hanging in many of the galaxies. Now you're becoming detached, you start understanding the detachment from the matter state. And thank you very much for bringing this up, because now it makes more clear why you see things. Your confusion is that you're still thinking, where is the matter? Now you enter, you don't see any wire connected to any of the stars. Yeah, Armand is showing you got to change your hat. Yeah? And that's all. That's why you see new materials in your container. Each gap between each millimeters of the container in diameter, the water, the amount of water creates a certain gaps, and those gaps in combination create gravitational magnetic field above the water or inside the water to extract what is equal to it in that environment. You can put the same material, let's say in Arizona, you get nothing, and you bring the same box in Beijing and you see it becomes full of materials. Because in the desert in Arizona, you don't have the contamination mixture of material in central Beijing. And now your material is extracting your gravitational magnetic field of your cup, is extracting the materials which are available and matching in Beijing. This goes back again to what Armand showed.
Mr. Kesh, I have a question.
Yeah.
What Alex did is making CO2 cells that produce 3 volts. And very often you're speaking that adding matter current or adding plasmatic current. Is that the way to add plasmatic current to a system to make it out of GANs, and then accumulation of voltage can add a certain amount of plasmatic current to the system?
I don't understand. Can you repeat, please?
I mean, very often I hear that we speak about matter voltage that is coming from electricity in our power station, and very often we're speaking about plasmatic current. And what Alex did in that system is, in the separate site, he created CO2 cells that collectively were producing 3 volts of current, and it is plasmatic current. So actually he powered his system that produced these GANs with these CO2 GAN cells. So actually, is that the way to add plasmatic flow to a system? I mean, can we control, let's say that we make like 5 volt plasmatic battery of CO2 and add it to a system, and this will be different result if we add 3 volt of the same of this system? Because now we don't put ordinary battery that we take out, we use plasma, we use magnetic field.
In a way, yes, but if you look at, there is no difference between the ordinary battery and the plasma battery. The only difference is that with the plasma battery, you collect the energy of the magnetical and gravitational. You collect two energies, not one. Where in a normal condition, you collect the conversion of the plasmatic energy into electron level, and then you collect only magnetical. So you collect a fraction of the totality, where with the plasma current you collect most of the reality, the actual amount. That's why your plasma batteries or reactors show such a big production of energy, because the only difference is that nothing has changed in the origin of the energy source. Only thing is, you are, instead of sitting on the mainstream canal of the energy, you have taken a sub-branch of the sub-branch, and then so you get more or less than what it goes in the main canal. You're sitting in the subsidiary branches than the main branch. And that's why to you, it looks that you're collecting more energy from a plasma, because now you start going into the more to the source than taking off the offsprings. In reality, your energy you're collecting from offspring always has come from this source, but you were not aware of it. Now you see it.
Okay, thank you. It was clear.
Thank you very much. I think we passed 4 hours by a long time.
Yeah, we need to. Well, it's 4:07 on my watch here for this workshop, but it's a little longer overall. Yes, thank you, Mr. Kesh. Another great workshop for the 50th
Thank you very
workshop
much.
here. Any last announcements?
Can I remind you that the Keshe Foundation Space Institute is open up, and if you want to enroll and join for the first group in April, please apply. And the fees has been set, we forgot to explain, for masters at 6,000 euro and for the undergraduate at 5,000 euro per annum. So if you need to look for visa to enter, your interest has been done literally immediately, that the university can issue you invitations to join the course. Do not wait to the last minute, because we had this discussion yesterday with Sohail. We already know a number of people who are joining us as masters from the state, from Italy. Most probably 2 professors of a high caliber in the world of science will join us as a masters, because they said they have to learn from basic. So once we put the site up within the next day or 2, please put your forms in immediately, that we understand we can arrange for you to have a visa or at least the invitation to be. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kesh. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for all your help.
Thanks for all the special guests today, and to Vince and others that are helping in the background. And that completes another Knowledge Seekers Workshop, number 50. Thank you, everybody, for attending.